Uh, are you guys gonna want me to stream this for you?
Yes.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, so I'll start streaming it once the matchup actually starts. I don't want to like preset this up and then like it fucking doesn't do anything.
Are they gonna take your stream down afterwards? Because they always seem to do that.
So I don't know. It's gonna depend. Since
No.
we're doing it live today, fucking yeah, yeah, that's what's going on.
No, fuck that. Fuck them. It's fair use, and it's reactionary, and it's educational.
I should turn on the camera though, just to be safe.
Yeah, turn on the camera. Add your face to it. So that people can then mistaken you for me once again.
I actually have my focus all on the side. That's when Mangler is sounding. Hello, Rockin' Alice,
Yeah,
Cross, Reggie. Yes, we are streaming this live. If you hear Spanish stuff
they'll
in the
associate
background, that's our mom.
they'll associate your face with me and then my voice with Kyle.
Indeed.
Because we're all just like one unified being, apparently.
So, what I was thinking of doing is we'll comment about what they're saying during the matchup, but let's just let it play all the way through without pausing while talking about like quick comments here and there, and then we'll go back through it. A stream at a reasonable time? Fuck you guys! I gotta wake up so fucking early for this!
Shut the fuck up about waking up early. Shut the fuck up.
No, fuck you! I had to wake
No,
up. I woke up at
no, shut the
8:30.
fuck
We're
up.
gonna
I had to
pregame the
wake up at a
show. Fuck
reasonable
this fucking
time,
place.
and
No,
I had
Zim,
2 hours.
Zim, shut the fuck up. It's 5 o'clock in the morning where I am.
How many hours do you get to sleep, Kyle?
Like,
So, wait,
one, I had stomach pains all night.
That's because you eat fucking garbage.
I eat better than you piece
Well,
of shit.
apparently that's a fucking
hey,
lie.
hang on. So the way you want to do this, if I understand it correctly, Zim, is that you just want to go through it and give like light commentary, nothing more than like 20, 30 seconds at a time, and then just like go back and give our thoughts
Yeah.
afterwards.
No, that's gonna be quite hard.
Listen. I understand I'm asking a lot from you guys, but I think it'll just
Um,
be easier because it's a live thing going on, so it'll just be easier to watch it all at once. So we get like, so we do this so that way we get all of the info right away. We can sort of like pre-game it, and also we don't wait like 3 hours to get to the end of the video. You know?
sure. I wasn't really going to talk on like any of the sections regarding like character backgrounds or anything. I was just gonna make like I'm just gonna make like little mental notes of everything they say regarding like maybe like hacks and other statements about what the characters can do.
No, I'm gonna
Nice.
make a I'm gonna make a mental note of everything they allow Kratos. So the next time DMC comes in and they fuck DMC, I'll have like ammunition to just rail fucking them.
Start streaming at the last time of the day. I fucking hate you guys. Woke up so early.
Shut the fuck up. You didn't wake up early. You woke up at an appropriate time.
You woke up at your normal time. I didn't.
My time is not appropriate.
Yes, it is. You go to work. Pimp Demon, you can take him in a fight, right? Yeah. Unfortunately, Devil's been dead recently, so Devil, I don't think Devil can join us.
Yes, devils are usually dead.
But yeah, so that's how we react to it first, and then we'll go through it just so that way we see it roughly at the same time. Regarding Avier's question, I guess you guys have Kratos hard losing this. The answer is yes. I'm watching this at church right now. What?
That's the only way he can worship his gods is watching a battle between two god slayers.
Versus Balrog wins, guys. Make a poll. I don't know how to make polls actually. How do you do it? How do you engage with your audience? You know what? We're gonna go ahead and start a poll here.
You're usually fine in most regards. I would pretty much win.
Nah. No, fuck you, you would.
I'm a better cook. I actually fucking do exercise and physical labor, so I would outmuscle you in a fight. Like, that's not even up for debate.
You're right, because I'd win.
No, I'd kick you in your fucking ankle and call you a pussy.
Nah, nah. I'd give you some
And what?
reasonable labor, and then you'd be upset for the rest of the fight.
No, I'll kick you in the ankle and I'll watch you do the Peter Griffin fucking breathe in, breathe out.
Only got like, what was it, 7 minutes left?
Yep. So from what I did hear regarding the G1 block, Balrog at 60% fucking copers.
There's only like 7 people down there, so take their votes with a grain of salt.
Fucking copers.
You wouldn't know what hard labor is if it smacked him on the ass.
I know when he has to do reasonable amounts of labor. Oh, I don't want to. It's not fair.
Is it
My
when he's
brother,
asked to do? Is it when he's doing anything reasonable? Oh, I can't. My vagina hurts, and my
my brother
ass
stopped
needs
the
to sit on
stream.
the toilet for ages as I jack myself off.
No, stream's fine. Whoa, easy there. Kai, I sound like a skinny drunk white dude. Mangler sounds like a white dude who's middleweight, and Zim is the big one. Actually, I think between all of us. Oh, Zim at 50%. That's based. All right, 53. Should put a time limit on that fucking thing.
That poll is like obstructing the bottom of the chat.
Yep, I'll send the poll. There we go. Yep, based 50-50. All right, reasonable.
I can now see the other 3 messages. Beautiful.
Is the stream still up? Stream's still up, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
I believe so.
there was a comment there saying that if I stop the stream or not, but everything seems fine. It went off for me for some reason. Ah, I see.
Brother, could you not have like done your hair or something?
What, me? No, no. So here's what happened. I'm there trying to sleep to wake up early, and I wake up at 8:30, and I'm like, no, please. I sent the
A
alarm the
brush does
night
not kill you.
No. And so then what I do is I'm like, well fuck, now I have like an hour and a half like an hour to kill. I guess I'll just read more Jujutsu Kaisen, and I'm currently getting ready for the baseball game, which feels really out of fucking place and not important. I feel like I'm reading filler.
You are.
Bro, there's only like 240 chapters, there's like 270 chapters in this series. So it's in between you and
You're
Balrog, which of you gets to the steel chair first? Oh, I think Kyle reaches the steel chair first. He's faster. But it's okay. As we all saw in the WWE Kyle streams, Kyle cannot fight in wrestling to save his life, so I should be okay. He will not achieve his win con.
No, the difference is that the CPU doesn't like me. If I took when I took control, I actually dominated.
By the way, Zim, can you read the Discord DMs while I wait for a death battle? Shit, it's hilarious. I'm 6'2" and I have boxing experience. Do I solo? Nah. You're 6'2"?
Why don't you train in a real martial art?
That's really good. Disrespect boxing?
Boxing is not a martial art.
What the fuck?
It is. It's literally one of the
like
oldest things out there.
No, it's not.
It is. At least as far as
No, it's
America's
not.
concerned. Sure, it is. Like, can
No,
you
it's
name
not.
me any, like most? Okay, so can you name me like most martial arts from 1,000 years ago that still exist today? You
Yeah,
can't.
Tai Chi, Kung Fu, Karate.
Tai Chi, Kung Fu, and Karate are like less common, less mainstream than boxing is.
So to be clear, any physical like training you do technically constitutes a martial art.
Actually, speaking on the topic of martial arts, I
Okay,
saw a video
oh,
recently of this guy trying to stay like he was making a video on people trying to debunk people's comments about Goku being a bad martial artist. And he was like, well, you need to understand what martial arts means in Dragon Ball. It's all about your ki, and ki being like courage and all these things. And I'm like, I think you missed the point.
I'm sorry, is that a goal post move I saw?
Dude, like, he just spent like 12 minutes just yapping about like Dragon Ball's ki being like a sort of a mindset, and that like, oh, here are all these statements of Goku basically rising to levels of gods
You know what,
and being
guys?
able to fight people who know all martial arts. And I'm like, yeah, if only those martial arts actually did something other than punching.
Busting out the rebellion. Busting out the rebellion for the reaction stream. Let's go. Let's go. Get the rebellion. Get the rebellion. You know.
Hang on, I gotta see this.
No. So Mangler, in his eyes, would he consider Yami to be the best martial artist he's ever fucking seen?
Okay, you know
I don't know, because he just kept taking statement, like his entire argument was literally just OG Dragon Ball manga and DBZ.
my right hand free.
It's like, look at Goku. Like the only examples that he showed was that I would honestly argue constitute any level of skill was like Goku being able to copy techniques that he's seen, and then some statements where it's like, once an attack works on me or hits me once, it never works on me again. And
That's a fucking lie.
It's not even true.
Got rep the superior against these two series. You guys understand? Got rep DMC. Got that Red Queen now. I do not have Yamato, but got rep the superior.
I think it was. I don't think he understood that we weren't talking about the mindset. When people say Goku's a bad martial artist, we were not talking about the mindset of what it means to be like a trained fighter. Goku's got that down. Dragon Ball never was lacking in the mindset or the hard work or the effort. We never doubted his commitment to the grind.
Does anyone know if I'm gonna have to refresh the YouTube channel to watch the video, or is it just gonna automatically just like start playing?
It should just start playing.
Okay.
Kapora is pretty much a dance. Kapora was what happens when you want to learn a martial arts, but you also want to dance, so you just make a compromise.
Let's share my screen. Alright, boys, I'm setting up the live stream now.
And to answer you earlier, Mangler, name me an older martial arts that's still popular. The oldest martial arts that we know of, I think, is like wrestling and grappling.
Muay Thai actually does suck in actual fighting, because who knew? Create a fighting style that requires you to be on one leg half the time is not a good fighting style.
Can you get rid of the chat?
Yeah.
On their thing?
That's fine.
Yeah.
If you're doing Muay Thai, you might as well just fully commit and just do kickboxing, right?
Oh, okay. It's 10 a.m. So we're
Hankatron.
Oh, there we go. All right, it's in. There's the ad.
What makes good leg exercise, though? That's understating it. Kapoor's leg exercises are ridiculous. Your legs basically become arms.
G1 had Kratos versus Ozra a tie. That's not what I was told.
That doesn't sound like G1.
So they made a new one, but I heard that Ozra wins.
On the G1 one?
Ren sucks. I'm out 360 no scope. That's out of fucking nowhere. But don't worry, new book will fix that.
No, it won't.
Shut the fuck up, Kyle.
No, I'm just giving you an honest ad. No, it won't, but it'll make you like the shit out of Maximilian.
I know, you can't keep saying my antagonists are only good characters in the books. That's Pimp Demon's 3-year message, lol. Indeed. Alright, seems Mangler's muted himself for now. Kyle, can you... We're gonna have to hire it a little bit. How long does it take? Alright, can you guys hear it now?
Yeah, I'm just waiting for this to start. Like, why are they...
What is this eerie fucking music?
The manga for Ozra was fully translated, and apparently Ozra got law resistance to Kratos' best shit.
I've actually yet to still read that.
Where's that manga? Is that on manga decks? I'll read it. I don't think the manga's canon, but like, I mean definitely almost everything. Oh, there we go. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Kratos versus Asura.
The Ghost of Sparta versus the Wrathful Destructor. Cause sometimes you
Jim,
just
we
want to
battered,
punch
new
a
in,
god
don't
in the
worry, I
face.
don't do
He's
wheelchair
with
girls
my
anymore.
boomstick.
And it's our job to analyze their
Oh,
weapons,
that's
armor,
back.
and skills to find out who would win a death battle. In the beginning, the primordials
material
waged
lengthy characters
war
apply to
across
analysis with not contradicting
existence,
primary
a
source
series
material.
of cosmic
Alright, it sounds like
clashes
you're not
that
using
birthed
Twitter
the
statements.
universe.
Boom! Now that's what I call a big bang.
From Ceto's death, the oceans would flow. From Uranus's strikes, the
Why
stars
is there
were
an echo?
spawned, and so forth.
Not
Thus, the world itself was
we're watching it
born
live. You just want to
from
mute what I
violence.
gave you and just watch it live.
Starting the
Watch it
whole
live.
messy cycle, Uranus was overthrown by his Titan son, Kronos, who
You
was
should probably get rid of
overthrown by
the
his
closed
Olympian
captions.
son, Zeus, who battled his own son, Kratos.
As a classic bastard child of Zeus, Kratos was left among Spartan mortals,
Exactly.
far exceeding all among him. He became a
Where's his,
fierce warrior,
where's his
winning
real
many
name? Where's
a battle
John?
Until finally cornered by ruthless
jump for this.
barbarians.
Ares, destroy these guys who are kicking my ass, and my life is yours. A deal was made, and Kratos was joined at the bone with the Blades of Chaos,
Well, it's
a
fine-
set of
it's
chain
fine to be a
swords,
little
and
loud right
basically
now.
a badass whirlwind of flame and steel.
But
Guys,
Ares
we'll go
had
over
a
this
scheme.
afterwards.
While doing work for his god, Kratos accidentally murdered his own family, permanently marked by the ashes of his
Okay, so
wife
to be
and
clear,
daughter.
he saw his family, he
forevermore,
just couldn't stop
the
himself.
ghost of Sparta.
So, he was kinda understandably
I don't think
pissed
accidentally is
off.
applicable
Time for
here.
a new
Yeah,
god
he
of
wasn't exactly
war.
tricked.
The
That's
gods
not
were
entirely
crapping their
accurate.
togas in fear as the new god of war took out his rage on all of them. And got some new gear out of it, too.
With Poseidon's trident and Icarus's wings, Kratos dominated
Okay, so
both
that's kind of
sea
the
and
bastardization
sky.
of his
He
entire
also
character
has a
arc.
tendency to carry powerful severed heads, like
Well,
Medusa's.
what do you expect
And the
from Death
claws
Battle
of Hades
summaries?
could steal souls.
Okay, so he's
Even
getting
the
into
soul of
the
Hades
arsenal?
himself.
I
Should've thought
didn't
that one
really not
through,
going
man.
to.
Neither Perseus
The
or
fact that
Hercules were a match
him
for
having
Kratos, nor was
basically,
Helios, the sun god
like,
capable
watch
of
his brother
moving
die
stars and
was a big
spreading
reason.
light across the entire underworld.
He fought Atlas, the Titan of Strength, who broke the load-bearing pillar of the universe. So Kratos forced him to hold up the cosmos on his own instead.
And he could do it with just one hand, according to the novelization.
Even his grandpappy Kronos failed to stop him. You know,
I
the
wonder why
guy who
novels are
overthrew
loud.
the primordial that punched the universe into existence.
Causing shockwaves that moved over a quadrillion times faster than light.
Yeah,
A frankly
talking very clearly to the
incomprehensible
child, there
feat.
you go, better.
Okay.
There's Daddy Zeus,
He does
Who
not.
proved a serious challenge.
Okay.
Until Kratos drew perhaps his
So
ultimate
this is
weapon,
gonna get
the
massive
blade of
bullshit
Olympus.
vibes. They're
He can
already
make
stacking the
tornadoes,
deck.
lightning, force fields. Oh, and it
Yeah.
can stab the hell out of you. It siphons godly energy and can pull
He
it up
did
to
regain-
even
he did
kill
regain the
Zeus.
Blade of Olympus.
Like father, like son.
Although
Even
I
while
don't know if
Kratos
he can only use
ultimately
that on
released
Valhalla.
No,
he
it's
can use
not.
across the
outside.
Greek world, he could only do so after annihilating
It's a mental thing in Valhalla. It's not the
Like a
actual blade.
badass, he was unstoppable.
You can use it
Non-stop
outside of
killing
Valhalla
and
in the main
sex
game
and even
afterwards, I
more
believe.
killing. And yet, he couldn't be any more depressed.
His wife and daughter were still
Yeah,
gone.
that could be just one of those things where it's like, I don't like saying gameplay mechanics, but that's kind of like
He
gameplay.
wandered aimlessly for years, somehow stumbling into Norse mythology where he met Faye, his second wife. Good
Alright.
start, buddy.
So they're just
Kratos
gonna
had a
gloss
new
over
lease
Kratos
on
walking in
life,
Norse
but
mythology.
he could not escape his past mistakes.
There's
Let's see
a
what they
reason
say.
he hid his
So I wonder what
swords
the
in a dingy
cosmology argument's
basement.
gonna be.
Even so, Faye insisted he could do better. So he became a dad to a new boy.
Easily the toughest task he ever undertook, especially after Faye unfortunately died of a mysterious illness.
Damn it, not again! But hey, it wasn't Kratos' fault this
Then
time.
ignore the boat,
and Faye
maybe?
left the
We'll see.
tools he'd need
But
to
Kratos
keep
does not
the
have his
boy
Greek arsenal.
safe,
No, just the Blade of
including the
Olympus. And
Leviathan
even then,
axe.
that's
Far from the
disputable.
whirling rage
Okay,
of the
so
blades
oh,
of
That's
I
not
guess he
chaos,
also
true.
the
plays Chaos
Leviathan
too.
axe
That's
was
right.
deliberate and mighty, said to rival Mjolnir
Okay, so they're giving him
itself.
both
Thor
arsenals.
wishes Mjolnir was as cool as this axe. It's imbued with ice magic and a poison even the gods fear.
debatably,
It can be
Mjolnir's
summoned to
better than
Kratos'
fucking,
hand from a distance,
the axe.
and it even shatters souls.
Kratos may have once been a sword of vengeance, but with his new weapons and a new purpose, he stood
There's
as a
already so many
shield
problems with
against
this.
the godly aces.
Too bad he just can't help but get in trouble with gods. But now,
Yeah, like Zim, I agree with
Which
waiting to
is even more important
to
in
watch this
itself.
again.
Kratos' Spartan rage summons an inner strength with magical properties.
he can even get so pissed off that
Okay,
he straight
Spartan
up
Rage
heals
is more so
himself.
his
That
prime
seems
power
like the
rather
opposite
than
of
like
what should happen.
like new
Not all
power.
anger is problematic, and Kratos wields plenty of new weapons weapons and
Yeah,
relics to
Norsemen just
channel
get
his
navies
rage
to
through.
take a
Like
vote.
the Dropnir Ring, which can summon a bunch of
composite
wind
as far as I
spheres.
know.
They can
It is
absorb all
composite.
types of energy and blast it back. He even has relics and magic that can warp space and slow down time.
Naturally, he contested with the strongest of the Norse gods, including the god of thunder Thor,
I think
who was
Thor's
powerful
actually
enough to
stronger
fight the
than Odin.
fire giant Surtur and the world serpent Jormungandr at the same time.
Oh, and that fire giant would be the cause of actual Ragnarok.
Okay, I don't think
you
Thor
can't
fought them at the same
defeat
time
me,
is
Thor.
entirely
I
accurate.
know,
He was flying
but he
around,
can.
dodging one of them, and like
not
doing
exactly.
hot shots.
Freyr,
but fair
the
enough.
rain god, held off Ragnarok for a considerable time on his own, and the sheer power of Ragnarok shook Yggdrasil down to its very
That
roots.
is so
That's the
disingenuous. That is
world tree,
not what the
which
fuck
is like
happened.
a literal tree that connects the whole universe.
According to Freya, the tree's very existence supports all of creation among its boughs. Every strand transcending time, transcending space. Everything comes back to the tree.
So it's kind of like Kratos lives in a really, really, really big treehouse.
I know.
In his quest to free the Norse world, Kratos reclaimed old weapons by reckoning
Wait,
with his
wait, wait.
past sins,
Are-
even
Are
taking
we
up
not
the
going to
blade
talk
of
about that
Olympus
conflict of
once again.
cosmology
Even
there?
better, he actually got to be a decent dad.
Are we not going to talk
And
about how he
now
can only
the
play
boy
Master
is a
Shovel Knight?
man and also a bear.
Kratos made
Whoa,
a
hold
life.
on.
It upholds all of
Shovel Knight's
creation
what he can
except for the rest of
He'd be more than
creation.
he was in the past. Not
He
just a
won
god
that
of
Shovel
fight.
war,
Knight won that
but a
fight.
leader,
Fuck outta
a
here.
father, and a defender. A god of hope.
What's with the Shovel Knight downplay?
Wait,
Crazy.
This battle is sponsored by
stop.
Robin Hood.
The only way they're able to use the Shovel Knight statement is if they look on Twitter to see if it was canon.
Yeah, they just invalidated their own position, but I find that funny that they used the mural, but they didn't show the back of the mural where it shows him sailing to the Norse pantheon.
No, you know,
That's over 8
They just lied.
well, you know, the ancient relic, the boat captain's key, you know, the amount of feats.
Okay, so they used. Okay, yeah, we're gonna have to definitely sit down and talk about that because there's no way Shovel Knight doesn't contradict God of War's like mythology. Actually,
a month for 1 year from
how
first.
He
is
also
that
won that
really
fight.
bad? Yeah, look. Best case scenario, you argue, is that Kratos wasn't severely injured after the fight, so he could just walk away. But like, Shovel Knight won that fight. Kratos
by
acknowledged
Robin
his
Hood
win.
Gold LLC.
All right.
Long ago, a
All
demigod
related
fell
care
from the
statements
heavens, only to
Created
rise from the
statements are only
depths of
applicable as
Baraka
far as
after
they're supported by the primary
12,000
source.
years.
Okay, so that's where they
After
did it.
12,000 years, he's free.
No,
You
fuck that.
punished
Shovel Knight's
everything
not
coming
valid.
up to get in
Well,
his way.
for now-
He was
Yeah,
a
then their
demigod of
entire
wrath.
argument is invalid.
Asura,
No, no,
comes to God of War, because
Seven
no,
other
no,
or the creator
demigod
statements.
generals, Asura
No, I
served
want-
as defender
I
of
want
humanity
Asura
against the
to
impure
have
Goma,
the
dark
Raging
spirit
Demon.
monsters infesting the world.
Chosen
And the
inheritor of the
demigods
universe.
battled
Okay,
the
it's
Goma
pretty
by
based. Pretty
wielding a
based.
mystic energy formed from human prayer. Mantra.
By advancing
sorry,
technology with mantra, the Guardian Generals became essentially hyper-powerful mystic cyborgs. They could each harness mantra through a different emotional affinity. For August, it was greed. For Yasha, it was melancholy.
I'll give you one chance to guess what Asura's is.
By tapping into his wrath, Asura can take many forms for battle, like the six-armed Vajra, a state
God.
powerful enough to subdue the
Was he
embodiment of the planet's will and the source of the Goma, Vlitra.
But he wasn't angry enough to put Goma Vlitra
Yeah, I
down
know.
for good. At least
I
not
made the
yet.
right call
Of
first
course,
watching
since
them
he's
react
literally
afterwards.
powered by wrath, no enemy of Asura's would be stupid enough to do something that would make him even more mad, right? Right?
Funny you should say that.
God damn it.
First off, Asura is not some one-dimensional anger machine. In myth, the Asuras were powerful and aggressive beings, sure, but not inherently evil, just like Asura himself. He's a warrior, but also a
They didn't
husband
mention that Thor's
with a
poison
daughter.
still wounded when Kratos fought him the second
And
time.
Mithra has the unique power to supercharge
Yeah, but
mantra
he would've
energy.
used
which
that as an
gave
excuse.
Asura's prideful
So that's probably why they
commander
didn't mention
Deus an idea.
Is there supposed to be an echo in their video?
Literally wiring her up to a
No,
super
I think
weapon.
it's 'cause- I
the
think it's 'cause
Guardian
might be
Generals
hearing it
could
on
maybe
my
finally
mic, so it
end
might be where the
Goma
echo's coming
Vlitra
from.
for good.
Well,
It's not
obviously
that bad.
Asura wasn't going to go along with that. So
Yeah.
Deus framed
Yeah, sorry
Asura for
about that.
killing
I
the
wasn't able to
Emperor,
buy a mic
murdered
in
his
front of my
wife,
laptop.
kidnapped Mithra, and then just straight up killed him. What a dick.
But true to his nature, Asura was literally too angry to die. So long as a single part of his body remains and can possess mantra, he can climb back out of Naraka, a sort of limbo underworld between life and death. Thanks to some coaxing from a strange golden spider, he did just that, with an all-new purpose in mind.
Make the gods pay! Oh yeah, they're calling themselves gods now. Turns out they're all assholes who started sacrificing thousands of innocent people to try to power up. So Asura got really pissed off.
And through his rage, Asura's power exploded, rising enough to throw giants like ragdolls, shatter whole moons, and destroy a fellow deity, Wyzen.
Who could dwarf the planet and wreck it with just a finger. Look at this!
Asura is so powerful, his soul cannot be manipulated by the Goma or the deities. He can propel himself with mantra to fly, harden his fists to break steel, fire explosive energy blasts,
and headbutt you so hard you wish you could die even faster. The dude literally stockpiles anger into a burst of energy that can one-shot even the toughest of foes. And when he goes unlimited mode, he can rapid-fire those super attacks without overheating.
Asura's vengeance quest wasn't all shouting and explosions, though. I mean, it was a lot of that, but he also tried to protect people from the gods, including a girl who very much reminded him of his own daughter.
Yeah, Asura's the kind of guy who wants to be a great dad, but all he knows how to do is punch anything that upsets his kid, like that one dad that knocks out a ref at a Little League game.
And then the gods killed that girl too, along with her whole village, sparking Asura to unleash his berserker aura.
You know how the gods were sacrificing thousands of people to power up? Well, Asura got so freaking angry, he built up enough mantra to match them, even though they've been building up energy for thousands of years.
We don't know
Seriously,
how much
guys,
mantra
you're
a human
pissing off
has,
the
so it's
guy
not
who
really
literally gets
calculable.
more
It just
powerful
sounds
the
impressive,
angrier
which
he
it is, to
gets.
be fair.
What did you think was gonna happen?
Yet even in berserker mode, Asura never lost total control.
Berserker Asura adds even more extra
Well,
arms, and they're big and
is
glowy
he
now.
became the
The man
inheritor
can launch
of
so much
Chocobarden,
angry mantra,
so he
he
has
wiped
all
out
of
the
it.
god's whole space fleet in seconds.
Asura's anger raised to levels so high even he couldn't contain it, scorching him into his wrath form.
Even though it hurts Asura while he's in it, this form is still perfect for absolutely shit-stomping a snobby demigod's face in. It's okay, though. His brother-in-law punched the edge out of him.
Yasha saw the error of the deity's senseless sacrifices
Yasha losing
and
to
teamed
Deus
up with
was so
Asura
fucking
for a
stupid
coup
in the anime
against
fight.
Deus.
Awesome, they're bros again. Just in time for Asura to hit his former boss with so much mantra that he burst. Then dive into the planet's core to obtain power equal to 1,000 arms. His mantra form. Finally, a power capable of killing Vlitra in a big planet-busting blast.
Deus was defeated and Gaia was saved. Yet, Asura's wrath hadn't been quelled.
Title drop.
It turns out that spider that guided him was actually
That's how you ride rage, chakra
Chakravartin,
forms,
the
not Naruto.
creator of mantra and the entire universe.
Okay,
And
so that's the
everyone's
universal
suffering was part of
creation.
his plan to make Asura
Alright,
his
let's go.
heir.
Thanks.
Chakra kidnapped Mithra, because of course he did, and tested Asura in the form of a massive golden Buddha statue. Check out the size of it! That thing can literally hold a galaxy in its palm. Naturally, Asura and the statue threw hands.
Enter the mantra
Mantra
reactor.
reactor.
Capable of holding 7 trillion souls, Asura instead used it as a vessel for a far greater power.
His own unfiltered rage. At last, Asura could show the world his real colors.
Everyone from the humans to the 7 deities to Chakravartin saw Asura's anger as a weapon, a sword for tyranny, when that was never who he was. His rage was really a shield to protect humanity, and most of all, his daughter.
A shield larger than a planet! Unbound by his past limits, Asura's ultimate destructor form effortlessly punched through asteroids larger than nebulas, dodged planet-sized lasers moving 2 quadrillion times faster than light, and obliterated whole stars!
Chakravartin was understandably
Interesting they
impressed
don't mention
and offered
where
Asura a
Chakravartin
chance to
actually
take
is
his
in that
place.
fight.
Asura smiled at the offer and extended his arm.
Right into Chakra's
Okay,
face,
so if they're
as
giving
if he
him
was
his
gonna let
fight
some
with
god
Kuno,
trample over more worlds. Instead,
then he gets
literally beat
the raging demon,
out of God,
which shows that
obliterating
Asura
him
can
and his
copy
plans in
techniques on the
cosmic
fly.
explosion.
But with Chakravartin
Yeah,
dead,
we'll see if they
so
get it to
was
him.
the concept of mantra itself. Those who depended on it could not survive,
Akuma is way
including
weaker.
Asura.
Hey,
Akuma has
as
some
long as
pretty
Mithra was
chilly
fine,
comic
it was
statements.
worth it.
So, I
Besides,
wanna
he'll
see
reincarnate
if
millions
they
of
go
years
in this
later.
bang.
Still kicking ass, ready to smack
That
a random
because
thug. A
Chakravartin
meteor. or Ryu.
made Naraka,
Right in the
and Naraka is
balls.
infinite in
It's
size.
interesting. Despite the dangers of uncontrolled anger,
No,
Asura's
it sounds like
wrath
they're
gave
it
him
sounds
the
like they're
power
making
to
their AP
save
equal.
everything. All because of just one thing.
Some bastard made his daughter cry,
Something,
so
something,
they
Death
had
Battle
to
hates
pay.
infinite
Now
stuff.
that's
Something,
a god
something.
I can get behind.
No, because they would argue Hades is infinite because of like
This
the
battle is
statements.
sponsored by
No,
Red
they don't want to deal with infinite at all. That's why they're not mentioning it for either one. Is my point.
I understand that, but what I'm saying is like even if they mention it, they'll like if they mention Naraka being
Yeah, no,
infinite,
they
they'll
will.
just say Hades is
They'll
infinite.
argue the disingenuous position that Hades is infinite, therefore Kratos scales, even though he doesn't.
They did mention infinite for Hades. As far as I know, they didn't. They just mentioned that Helios lights up the underworld. I don't
Yeah,
think
they don't
size for it.
mention the underworld size at all.
These sponsors are dog shit. So these sponsors might not be the best, but they probably pay the most because Robinhood probably pays a lot, and this is Prize Picks probably pays a lot too.
So Hades is not infinite as of the current cosmology. No, it is not. But they've already made a lot of statements. Like the way they've already set this up is completely.
They have glossed the fuck over the cosmology.
What is
Yeah,
Prize
they've
Picks?
also given him absolutely everything when that's objectively wrong.
Alright,
He
the
never has his full
curtains are
arsenal
set,
at any
and
point in
we've run
time.
the data through all possibilities.
It's time for a dead
Let's
battle.
see Kratos win this one. My boy Kratos has got this. All right, Kratos, let's go. Here, let me lower my.
That's kind of weird that they all capped his name like that.
All right, easy Kratos dub, boys. Easy Kratos dub. Death battle. Oh, the fuck? What the fuck is this? Oh, okay. So she calls for her dad to protect
It's
her. But
true then. The
hell?
god of war is on Gaia. But not for long. You do not want this fight.
I even the character for Kratos and Force Pantheon.
Run!
I'm pretty sure she. Oh, right. And this is how sex happens, right? This is how sex happens. Yeah.
Yeah, this is how humans reproduce.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure gonna give it to Kratos just because he hasn't done too
You
much
let
yet.
your
It's
wrath
kinda weird.
consume you. I have been down that road before. Shut up! Very well.
Man, I don't want to say anything, but this animation is kind of shit.
Solid. You always gonna have a problem with this matchup.
I use this like a movie just like there's a lot less happening than there should be.
Yeah, Kratos is doing like nothing this entire fight.
Like, the movie on purpose is
Very also a fanboy. What is this? The spear's not even that effective in the actual game. Wow, so you want to destroy the planet, bro? Okay, that is not the order of progression this works with. What the fuck? fuck is this?
Yeah, he doesn't turn into like that rage form specifically. Having a lot of power.
That's not how the axe is launching beam either, right? It actually just basically touches.
No, it can't create a solid block of ice like that. Never shown doing that in the game or in the lore.
God, can they not make Oscar feel like the biggest bitch when transforming?
That's not how he fucking fights, bro! Let's see Krail's blocking. Alright, so Krail's gonna block it.
Wait. Is he blowing up the planet while his daughter is on the planet? What the hell?
They're on a different planet. I would like to be clear for a minute. There is very this is very. Wait, you can do it with one hand? Alright.
Oh wow, they are just doing like. This is so weighted towards Asura.
Yet, Titan.
Okay, to be clear, Kratos can do that in the actual war. That is not how the spear
You
works!
deserve a worthy end.
Well, I guess he's using the swords. What?
Yeah, the spear does not summon like thousands of spears. It doesn't even have that ability.
Alright, so
I don't know where they got that idea.
Alright, so Oslo loses this. Yep. Hang on.
I never really liked the animation anyway, but man, that was.
This dog shit.
You are a monster no longer.
Alright.
I never was.
Okay.
Okay, so he'll just come back now, right?
Alright, that's the end of the fight.
That's not how his resurrection works.
That was fast. They better have all the explanations.
I think they did say that as long as a part of him survives, he'll still be alive.
KO! Well, I guess Asura's wrath really is gone. But are we sure this is how it'd go? Even though Asura can blow up stars?
Asura had some amazing displays of apocalyptic destruction, but the full scope of their speed, experience, versatility, and power sheds a surprising light.
At first glance, speed seems like a shoo-in for Asura. Kratos is quick, but he never dodged a universe-crossing laser.
That doesn't mean he couldn't. Remember, as usual, we look at these characters at their peak, free from gameplay restrictions.
No.
We're looking at everything in
doing?
canon, and Kratos fought
You're
and
being
killed
disingenuous as
Helios,
fuck.
the sun god.
From the moment he's introduced, Helios is emphasized to be immensely powerful. Without Helios, darkness would shroud everything. His light was fast enough to illuminate the entire underworld while Kratos sailed through it, taking a few hours at most.
So, kinda hard to quantify, but that's consistent with the shockwaves the primordials caused that spawned the universe.
Arguments could be made
Wait.
for
So they
faster,
just-
the primordial shockwaves or
Fucking
Chuck
logic.
Norton's intergalactic lasers. Since it's so close, it's safest to assume their speeds are generally even.
But what does
No,
speed
like-
matter if you don't know how to use it?
From what they
Let's
said,
cover
that's why it's
experience.
still vastly faster.
Asura lived across centuries,
Yeah, but hang
obviously a lot longer than Kratos.
And while Kratos eventually learned to control his rage, Asura pretty much always had that control.
So Asura easily takes experience. But when it comes to versatility, he couldn't match all the weapons and abilities Kratos had.
Sure, Asura's
That doesn't matter, 'cause he didn't use any of those
but
weapons.
His fighting style mostly relies on one thing.
Even if he did, most of those
Ooh,
weapons wouldn't
punching.
do anything.
Kratos' weapons, magic, runes, relics, and even his rage gave him far more options in combat, slowing down time, healing injuries, and most importantly, multiple
This
weapons.
box
that
is
drain
ridiculous
a
because
variety
the button
of
gave him his
energies.
talent, so Kratos should also have
Mantra.
Trucker
Yeah,
Button's
when
resistance.
Asura loses all his
yeah,
mantra
we'll see what
energy,
they say,
that's it
'cause,
for him.
I
So
mean,
the drop
it's
near
already fucking
spears
dog
and the
shit,
blade
but
of
we'll see what
Olympus
they say.
gave
That
Kratos
fight was not worth
exactly
it.
what he needed. Versatility. And multiple ways to finish this for good before Asura just comes crawling back out of the underworld.
If he could, Asura's resurrections take years.
Okay,
or whole
that's not a
centuries,
good argument
days
for
at
controlling
best.
mantra.
Well, this assumes
Their
Kratos
technology
can match
understanding
Asura's
is not
crazy
equivalent
strength.
to like
All
Hades'
roads lead to
soul
power,
thing.
which
Like
should go
Hades'
to
soul
Asura,
thing is
right?
not presented at the same
If
level of
this came
potency.
down to who made
Hang
the
on.
bigger kaboom, he'd kick Kratos' ass in 2 seconds.
But a closer examination of their feats reveals the truth.
At his peak, Asura overpowered Chakravartin, annihilating that cosmic golden god.
By measuring the dimensions of Chakravartin's body and scaling it up to match the size of this galaxy-eclipsing statue, we can determine its volume. Add in the density of gold, for good measure assuming the form is solid throughout,
Their
and its
volume
mass far
scaling
exceeds not just our
Chakravartin's
galaxy,
fake
but our
form?
entire observable universe.
Destroying that big golden god would need energy on par with obliterating
Oh,
our universe
who the fuck
got this one?
1,000
Hang on.
times.
Extremely impressive and unfathomable. However, the same idea applies to Ragnarok shaking the roots of Yggdrasil.
Ragnarok is obviously a bit of a different
Kratos
beast than
doesn't scale to
Kratos,
Sona.
but what really matters is what Freyr did.
Right, Freyr, a god comparable to Kratos, held back Ragnarok's power for a significant time.
So Kratos should be capable of the same level of power, or even more.
Using an official map and knowing
Freyr
the
didn't
world
hold
tree's branches
back
encompass
anything.
all of existence, we can measure its size and volume.
And we know this map is accurate because it shows these 2 realms conjoined, which we see in game.
Even if we assume the Tree of the Realms is only 1% solid, a significant lowball that Kratos should easily scale above, shaking such an incomprehensibly large structure would require enough force to destroy our universe's mass energy 9 million times over.
That's almost 100 times greater than Chakravartin's destruction. And this isn't some one-off outlier. I mean, a realm-shattering supergiant doesn't sound too different from the other Titans and Olympians Kratos defeated.
That's the thing, isn't it? It's easy to think that we never see Kratos do anything that matches Asura.
They're just not going to acknowledge cosmology
Helios'
or
speed
the
matches
statements.
Chakravartin, and Kratos outsped him. Atlas is strong enough to lift all of reality, and Kratos overpowered him. Kronos defeated the creator of the universe in a one-on-one fight, same as Asura.
That is not
and
how that
Kratos
happened in the
killed
fucking mythology.
Kronos.
He's
Add in the clear
disingenuous as
numerical
fuck.
comparison of Chakravartin, Ragnarok, and Yggdrasil.
We also don't know how
takes
Kronos
the edge
kills
in
Uranus.
But hey,
So-
Capcom, if you give us Asura's Wrath 2, we'll try this again.
That'd be pretty awesome.
Asura's the sun.
Yeah, they'd be
rises.
just as disingenuous the second
Was
time.
great, too.
Also,
The winner
I
is
actually-
Kratos.
okay, so I'm very curious.
What if?
What?
This
So
is
they just-
coped.
Hang on.
They just did not acknowledge anything.
No, because they didn't acknowledge the creator form difference.
What you want to bet this alternate ending was conceived just to appease the animators?
No, because here's the problem. Even if what they're saying is true regarding the Yggdrasil, why didn't they even attempt to quantify? Why didn't they attempt to quantify fucking Chakravartin's creator boost? Okay, realistically speaking, even by Death
Bro, this game,
rules,
this thing is so heavily weighted towards Kratos, it's not even funny.
This is early. We don't want.
The man has taken no visible damage the entire fight.
I
This,
don't think,
this
yeah,
will
no, I
actually
don't-
really fast.
besides Atlas, no Titans ever actually launched their full attack on Kratos.
And that concludes my pitch for Asura's Wrath 2. The end. Next time on Death Battle.
Who's next?
Alright, so the entire time I was kind of... It was lagging here and there, so I'm just gonna go over to their channel and, like, look at it while we're...
Ghost
going
Rider
back to it.
Spawn. Okay, that's a pretty solid matchup.
This. Okay. So, they didn't even have a box for the Twitter statements. They didn't even attempt to touch the cosmology or even rectify how both cosmologies can exist.
Alright. So let's I guess let's restart from the beginning. Okay. All
Yeah.
official material related to a character is applied to analysis unless found contradictory to the primary source material. Certain alternative media, e.g. B is for boy, the creator statements are only applicable as far as they are supported by the primary source.
No, so fuck that. We don't accept anything that contradicts our views.
So, every statement that is provided Is everyone able to hear me? Okay. Every statement that is provided via Corey Barlog, Matt Sofos, Bruno Valquez, Ariel Lawrence, every single person that wrote and worked on, directed, animated God of War has consistently confirmed the entire thing takes place on one planet. You cannot lie about this. Your only argument is to assert that when the people in the God of War universe believe they created a universe, you need to provide evidence that there is a pocket reality inside of the cosmology. No such thing was done here. No such thing is done anywhere when anyone ever defends God of War. Therefore, this is literally just an assumption from the people in the world. And they're living in a country. So you have to take those off your statements. There's no universal God of War.
I would also like to point out that they're all on the same planet, and Death Battle never even attempts to argue the position that they're not. So how do you rectify the Yggdrasil supporting all of creation and Atlas holding up the universe? Because those two can't exist in the same universe.
Because they said Uranus was the creator of the universe, but how can you be the creator of the universe and also share the same spot with someone who holds up all of creation?
So
that's like directly contradictory.
How do you rectify having and saying that? Because again, they tried giving universal to the primordials, which again, their fate alone would not be universal; it would be multi-galaxy.
I'm sorry, Pim Demon. Let me
actually, it would not even be multi-galaxy because the statement in Ascension says it happens over an eternity, and they're not even directly creating the universe they're not creating it intentionally. It's happening as a byproduct of their fight when they're punching each other and parts of their bodies are coming off. So that's not even like their direct speed.
All the weapons, the fan fiction version of the weapons. Actually, they didn't even talk about any of the weapons besides some of the bullshit they put into the fight, but like they didn't even describe what the weapons did either. How long is this death battle? It's 28 minutes.
Yeah, let's go to the next one.
Well, here's my question before we move on. It's like,
I didn't get that of it.
So it's like, are they just not going to acknowledge Bruno's statement about the Ascension cutscene shouldn't be taken as like literal?
Yeah, it's not meant to be an exact representation of everything that happens. It's just meant to be like this semantical thing that gives you an idea of it. It's like if I tell you something is the color blue, that gives you an idea of what that is, but that doesn't tell you the properties of what blue is.
From Uranus' strikes, the stars were spawned, and so forth. Thus, the...
Yeah. Let's see here. Let's read some comments. Sorry about the Pimp Demon again. Damn has happened. So they made both win. No, here's the problem: is that like Ozra is universal where Kratos would not be. But let's talk about this for a minute. So the destruction of Asgard shook the tree. That's fair.
Well, actually, hang on. Why do we go to those when they bring them up? Then we can talk about them. So people, because there aren't too many of those little bubble things with text in them in this video.
Starting the whole messy cycle, Uranus was overthrown by his Titan son, Kronos, who was overthrown by his Olympian son, Zeus, who battled his own son, Kratos.
As a classic bastard.
Is there anything here worth
mentioning? Okay, so I don't think he's actually over 1,000 years old. I think that's inaccurate. I don't believe I think the closest thing to like a time frame we're ever given is in God of War 3. There's a little bit of some records which are given by Daedalus as to how long he spent building the labyrinth, and we know based on the time frame that Kratos was a God of War at the time. But I think at the most that gives him maybe a few decades in the Greek pantheon, and then a few centuries.
I think they tried to get that from the vase from 2018.
2018 doesn't ever confirm he's older. In fact, the actual official... See, they say they go and get the official material. No, they fucking don't, because I actually have the official guidebooks for God of War 4.
Well, isn't it fucking curious?
They tell you what the timeline is. They tell you the timeline. It's only a few centuries for Kratos.
Well, isn't it curious? Because you have the official material. Isn't it funny how they used the statements from the novel, but they don't quite go into detail all the shit that Kratos gets affected by in the novel.
They mentioned God of War 2's novel. I'll go get that. You can continue because we're going to look at the statements they're sourcing.
All right.
Child of Zeus,
So we'll move
Kratos
forward
was
a little
left
bit again.
among Spartan mortals, far exceeding all among him. He became a fierce warrior, winning many a battle, until
James,
finally
one thing in the
cornered
comment
by
section talking about
ruthless
Death Battle, just completely
barbarians.
ignored about Kratos.
Ares, destroy these
No, I'm not
guys.
fucking with that because the problem is that
Kronos doesn't.
the
I'm
problem
sorry, I'm just
here
reading Ragnarok.
is that you're gonna have Kratos fans are going to argue that Kratos is downplayed because they're going to argue Thor shook the world tree, which I will give credit to Death Battle. I don't think they ever actually used Thor shaking the world tree with Jormungandr as their fight. They only used destruction of Asgard, which is actually based. Good on them. I also like they didn't try and argue that the Yggdrasil was endless in size, but then again, Death Battle just doesn't like infinite, so they never would have done that.
Yeah, that's more so due to their own stupid positions. Ironically, their own stupid positions in power scaling prevents them from making even dumber decisions. Okay, hang on, right here. This is where we should stop. Right before I go over that, I was going to read some of the comments. Kronos doesn't fight the sky by himself; he jumps it with his siblings. This is true. That's what is presented in the myth, and we're also not shown how he does it in the actual game. So, using that as a feat for Kratos is kind of dumb. Also, Kratos doesn't have 90% of this arsenal. He loses all of his God of War 2 arsenal at the beginning of God of War 3. They're destroyed in the river Styx. And then he loses all of his God of War 3 arsenal at the end of God of War 3. So, this is an incredibly stacked fight against Azura. Azura basically is given nothing by comparison. He's given every weapon and every power and ability he's ever had.
The actual ironic thing about it is that
he didn't use any of them.
Not only did he not use any of them, but the only one they actually fucking referenced. Well, actually no, because I'm pretty sure Greek powers end up there. For context, Norse Kratos cannot use any Greek powers whatsoever. They have to be separated by keys. You can't composite them and be genuine about the matchup. It's fucking ridiculous.
They were all obliterated in multiple games. Kratos is literally one of the most common characters that gets his powers reset or his equipment destroyed. And then on top of that, in the Norse pantheon in Ragnarok, they directly state that magic is tied to the earth. When your homeland was destroyed, your powers probably went with it. So they not only pointed out that his powers were gone, they doubled down on the position.
Not always. I tried to, but not always.
The soul of Hades himself. Could have thought that one through, man.
Neither Perseus or Hercules were a match for Kratos, nor was Helios.
Both of which have no feats.
So if Death Battle does Dante again, should they give Dante all of his weapons from previous games despite him not having them? They should actually give it to every single character that has lost their powers or abilities before. Yeah, so if they do Sora, I guess Sora gets every single power and ability he's ever had despite being constantly reset every single game.
So I find it quite curious. They use the Ascension scene showing the sun falling from the sky, but what they fail to mention is, one, that's the chariot, not the actual sun. And when we do see the actual sun being affected, only clouds gather in the sky when Helios dies.
So, yeah, Kyle's a point here. What's pointed out in the game, and what we see in the game, what is elaborated also by Bruno when he was asked about it, is that the light of Helios that you save from the sky, that's actually just the fire temple. That's the temple of the sun.
We go to the level.
That's what the sun is in the Greek pantheon. It's just a temple in the sky that projects the light.
All right.
That's literally all it is. So giving it the feat of illuminating the underworld is terrible. It doesn't even work effectively.
Actually, so I have a question for you guys, because you guys actually watched the Atlas versus Kratos fight. Does Kratos ever full counter a direct attack from Atlas, or does he just dodge the whole fight?
Which fight?
Atlas versus Kratos before he gets chained to the pillar.
So
no. It's not really a fight, actually. Actually, I think about it. Yeah, no, he's just destroying the world pillar. So Atlas is standing on the side of the world pillar, punching it with his fist, and Kratos comes by, crawls up his body, and starts chaining his hands to the world as he's doing this.
Has Kratos
So
ever
they're not even really
actually?
fighting.
Has
He's more
Kratos?
like a bug just flying around him, binding his hands to something else.
So when they do interact in 2, Kratos is literally begging him to not crush him, but to help him, because he could have crushed him at any point. Because he's
Okay, so-
using 2 of his fingers.
I have the novel there, so when we get to them bringing up Atlas's, well, actually, are they bringing up Atlas to scaling right now?
Well, they're talking
'Cause-
about Atlas right now, yeah. So that's what I'm talking about. Because talking about Atlas and Kronos.
I see.
I will say, and we'll talk about this more when we go over the fight again. I will say I'm very disappointed with an animator who had that much love and care for at least one of these characters. I'm assuming both. That this is the best you could do. I've seen you do well. I don't know. Devil Artemis has done good work, so I'm kind of surprised that this fight was so lackluster. Kratos can throw hands in close quarters combat. There should have been a
Okay,
lot more
so-
give and take.
Here's what Kratos says.
What's the worst part about this is that I knew who was winning from the fact that like Astra was running through his form and Kratos, with his controller disconnected, just no sold everything and made him look like a bitch.
Animation was mid as fuck.
Yeah, no.
All right, go ahead.
So in the actual novelization, when Kratos, this is the official novelization of 2, so this is explaining what Kratos is experiencing when he's getting crushed in the face of Atlas. It basically says that Kratos groaned as Atlas reached up with a hand large enough and strong enough to balance the world itself to crush him. He was caught between the thumb and the forefinger. Why would I ever trust the servant of Zeus? Because I seek to destroy Zeus. He grated out the words. His breath gusted from his lungs under the tremendous pressure of Atlas's fingers closing. It took all of his effort to force his hands into the thumb and finger to keep apart from that deadly vice. Despite his own superhuman strength, he was as weak as a mealing baby in the Titan's grip.
Okay.
And then
Okay.
later, it mentions that if he even flagged for an instant, he'd be crushed like a bug, then discarded with no further thought. His arms began to lose feeling from the pressure as his strength faded, and it continues to go on and on about how he's basically just getting split like a like a Kit Kat bar.
Okay.
So
I will defend Kratos here from Engler's Wrath a little bit. Correct me if I'm wrong, but
a muley baby. Just want to be clear about that. Kratos' own words.
When Kratos fights Atlas, well, we'll say fight to be generous.
Fights, yeah.
He has been depowered. Is that correct? This is right after he lost all of his godly power, correct?
Yes, but this is a Kratos that is confirmed in the game to be stronger and no weaker than God of War 1 Kratos.
Before
And
he lost
it
his
is
power, right?
Yes. Okay, so it's before he becomes the God of War, but it's also confirmed by Bruno that like when he got the Power of Hope didn't make him stronger to fight Ares. It just made him bigger. So he was already at that level, and the gods confirm he's basically nigh Olympian strength. So he's already at the level of gods, and he's already killed Persephone 10 years earlier. So he's already at a god level, like he's a god level being in God of War 1 and God of War 2 without being the God of War. So if you're snapping him like a toothpick, he doesn't scale to that, and it wouldn't matter if he has the powers because his God of War form hasn't demonstrated he can survive.
Well, this might make the video a little bit longer, but to basically add more credence to this, the only reason the gods won the fight against the Titans in the first place was because the Sisters of Fate intervened.
Yeah, Atlas directly says that when he's fighting Hades, and if he threw any of his boulders, when he's fighting Hades, if he threw any of his boulders at Hades and any of them hit him, it would have seriously injured the god of the underworld. It's just that all the boulders kept missing for some reason. And the fates confirm over the course of the novel, like, yeah, we directly chose the god. So you can just infer that they intentionally controlled Atlas's body and made him miss his projectiles.
Atlas
and just did that for all the people.
Atlas watching every single boulder turn 90 degrees when he throws fucking Hades.
Why is my aim so terrible?
Okay.
By the Titans. No.
Because we basically get confirmed that the Titans were supposed to win that, and it was not even supposed to be a close fight.
The Titans were supposed to stomp the shit out of them. I don't know where people get the argument that the gods consistently scale to them. They were literally defeated by, like, plot. Nothing more. Because they come back in God of War 3. Again, that one random Fire Titan comes back in God of War 3 and one-shots Helios. Just crushes him in his hands.
Titans seem to be, if not, I wouldn't say they're stronger than all the gods, but I would say based on all the evidence you get in the game.
Okay, so Zim, when you say all the gods, I'm going to tell you this right now. The only god that you can put in comparison is only Zeus.
No, I think Poseidon and Hades could fight fucking.
No, because Poseidon and Hades end up fighting them when they're climbing up Mount Olympus, and
not
that's
on
not
equal footing. And when he fights the Titan,
I will not let you disrespect the aura that Poseidon has when he shows up in God of War 3 to die immediately.
Are you just saying?
No,
Hang on, guys. We're getting sidetracked.
dive bombs him. Okay, so Zim, he's not fighting the Titan on equal footing. He's literally got the upper hill. He then jumps, dive bombs him, and then takes him into his own domain where he has all the power.
Yeah, and he has all the water. So
what's the bet that Titan actually survived and was climbing the fucking mountain again afterwards?
Well, so the funny thing is that the Oceanus, the water titan, doesn't get to fight Poseidon. Hades fights him, and Hades doesn't let him near the water.
So Hades will fight a Titan, understood.
So Hades, when Hades is able to kill him, he kills him in an area where he doesn't get to use any of his powers and abilities on a terrain that he's not familiar with, while Hades has the direct elevated advantage. That is not a fair fight.
To be fair, some of those Titans should have, not been climbing the fucking mountain, but whatever.
Well, they had no other way up. Because the gods were going to come down from Mount Olympus.
You're the god of you're the Titan of the oceans. Raise the ocean level. It worked for fucking Poseidon's dead.
We're not saying about whether or not it makes sense that they climbed up there. We're just explaining that they never fought them on equal footing, and they don't seem skilled.
This is something to remember as well. These are the Titans, not from the current day. Kratos transported them from their prime during the war, and that's how they're fucking up the gods as well.
It's also worth noting that the Atlas that was crushing Kratos, he didn't have a soul, by the way. His soul was ripped out.
Yeah, so
and he was also tortured for like 1,000 years. So this is like basically a half-dead Atlas with two of his fingers.
One hand, according to the
versus Kratos at like his peak.
All right. Okay, so Mangler, here's the quote they're providing. Kratos grown as Atlas reached up with a hand large enough and strong enough to balance.
It's literally the one I read. Okay, so they're just... Okay, whoa, hang on. They're being disingenuous here.
No. Read all of it. The passage where he's struggling is even in it.
Yeah, so it says... no, it literally says, despite his own superhuman strength, he's as weak as a muling's baby and the Titan's grip. Bro, their own scan contradicts them.
Okay. So to be clear,
hey, Death Battle. If you're going to provide something in a scan, why don't you do what G1 does and what Versus Wiki does, and actually cut out the bad part?
So by this
like
logic,
at least
you wouldn't
Doctor
be
or
able to
something.
scale. So to be clear, even just reading the scan alone, not even with the other information, you would not be able to accurately scale Atlas and Kratos to each other using just this scan. The fact that Death Battle did it is fucking ridiculous.
It also says that he's like basically not only that his arms are about to lose feeling, but later he's basically starting to see stars. He's fighting away ultimate blackness. So like his eyes are starting to black out. Like he's about to pass out because he's losing strength in his muscles. That's not a guy that can like easily hold that up. And to be clear, Atlas is not trying to kill him. He's just trying to force pressure on him because he wants to know why he's here. And he's like, I seek to destroy the gods. He's like, oh, really? Really? Tell me more. Like, he's not trying to kill him. If he would, he'd actually be pushing all of his fingers.
Or if he wanted to, he would have just moved him. Or if he wanted to kill him, he would have just moved him to the palm of his hand and squashed him.
Let's misspell details. Detail misspelled. Perfect.
Kronos that Kratos fights is weakened and dying in the desert. This is true. The Kronos that he fights, he is also has been trapped in the desert, has had a temple attached to his back, and has had the skin pulling away from him.
Oh, and also in Tartarus, he was also tortured by Zeus for his failure to protect the temple.
Yeah,
So he
even though that
wasn't
wasn't
even anywhere near full strength when he fought Kratos. And even then, Kratos was playing hit and run.
Yeah, Kratos was playing hit and run. Doesn't ever directly tank any blows from Kronos in the actual battle, and that's Kratos at his strongest, by the way. So it's either Kratos falls into the pattern of either he gets almost one shot by the character, and people argue, oh, he scales because he didn't die, or he never gets hit by the character, kills the character, and they're like, he killed the character, so he scales.
Okay,
It's
so
like
let's before we do that, or well, we talked about that, but so they actually provide the Kronos statement that Kronos doesn't even fight his dad; he just chops off his balls.
Yes,
So
I told you because in the mythology, he never fights Uranus. He poisons him.
Also,
and then
Kyle,
usurps
in the
him.
game, if you fail time
I believe Gaia also aids him in the mythology, and I think that's also mentioned in the books as well.
Yeah. So
So
Uranus's blood and lost Uranus literally could have just bled out to death after they sliced his balls off, because not all the gods have a good healing factor, and I don't think the Titans ever demonstrate having a healing factor except for maybe Gaia.
they don't really, and let's be honest, if someone cuts your balls off, do you think you're getting back up? No.
I'm gonna tell you this right now, Mangler. I'm a lot of things, but I ain't him if you cut my nuts.
Yeah, what the fuck are you supposed to do?
I think you just win this fight, bro. You got this. So let's be clear here. Let's be clear. By Death Battle's own evidence, not only should Kronos not scale to Uranus, because keep in mind the only way you actually get that fucking scaling chain is by a Twitter statement, but whatever. Kronos should not scale to Uranus, and Kratos scaling to Atlas is disingenuous as fuck, just by Death Battle's own evidence they provide. Impressive work. Impressive.
Yes. Why didn't Azura just throw Kratos into space? You mean instead of threatening his daughter? We don't know.
To be fair, they did reference this in the black box. We'll talk about it when we get to it, but they did answer that question. They did cover that, actually.
Okay. You will share your wisdom when the time comes.
Oh, believe me, you'll have words for that one.
Moved over a quadrillion times.
Also, by the way, regarding this universe creation feat, we don't have a time.
This is not accurate.
We don't have a time. No, we have a time frame, but you have to use Twitter.
Well, actually, even without that, it's stated to be an eternity. Like, an eternity is a really long time or an endless length of time. So either way, it would not be instantaneous. People look at it that way because in the scene, he punches them and stars come out immediately. Therefore, they're like, aha, it happened immediately. It literally says it's happening for an eternity. It's over time.
Hang on. So does the actual game say that? Hang on.
Yes.
Gaia says
it's the first cutscene in Ascension.
Yeah, it's literally the first one. You can't miss it. The war raged across. I can't remember what she says exactly, but it's the primordials waged their war for an eternity. Effectively. Oh my god.
I just want to show this.
Yep. Go ahead.
Okay, hang on.
The wrath of all the gods of Olympus. A great battle was waged. The wrath of the primordials. The very beings who forged the earth. Raged out of control for an eternity.
Yep.
Raged out of control for an eternity. Does that sound like, man, I threw one punch at him and created the entire universe? Fuck no.
No, they're fucking out here trying to make God of War sound like Saint Seiya. Get the fuck out of here.
So
that's also disingenuous. That's also disingenuous as hell because they're claiming that he created the universe off of pieces of his body and we should take that as literal. But in the same scene, one of his arms comes off and creates the rivers of the planet they're standing on.
I should also
a significantly bigger piece of his body, I would argue.
I should also clarify that we actually don't know how far the stars traveled in that scene. They are assuming the stars traveled as far as like possible across the universe. We are never shown that. We are never given an accurate distance. They basically pixel calc something that is unpixel calcable. Actually fucking impressive
It,
that they would go
it
that
No,
is.
far.
They literally.
they pixel calc something that the game doesn't even intend for you to take seriously.
Uh,
And when you go with Bruno, you shouldn't take seriously because he says that it's
So,
not supposed to be an accurate representation.
I actually would
so
disagree with
what?
Bruno's or downplay, but we'll talk about that later.
So I would say that the actual time frame given officially for anyone who wants to know like how impressive the feat is in the original God of War games, pre-Norse cosmology, it is stated by Ariel Lawrence to be a battle that happens over eons and eons. If you look up the definition of what an eon is, it is a billion years or a really, really long time. So if we look at it conservatively,
Eon.
the the lowest estimate you could make is like
2 billion years.
2 to 3 billion, typically because several would be three. And at that point, that is, I mean, to create the universe, you need really around 400-ish billion galaxies to create the standard observable universe.
Well, if,
That
if,
would I'm just saying that if you were calculating at the most generous, that means they would be creating a galaxy with all of them fighting every like 3 or 4 days, maybe, if we're
Also,
being generous.
also,
well, actually, it gets worse because if you go with Lawrence's statement, the gods didn't create the universe; they were already fucking in there. They just put shit in it.
Also,
Yeah,
something that they did not touch on, but we know because we know the lore. How did the primordials create the stars in the universe and the universe if Surtur created all the stars in the universe and the
yeah,
creation?
yeah. So you can't
Curious.
reconcile these. You can't reconcile these two
Yes.
things together. They're impossible. You can't
It-
believe
So,
two of these things are happening.
so if there are any God of War fans who watch this in the future, this is what you need to understand. They didn't touch on the most important thing that they needed to, which
The
was
cosmology.
the cosmology. They just decided to completely sidestep that.
So I'm gonna explain this right now. Two other things as well. Not only did they sidestep the cosmology, they conveniently ignored everything from the Norse pantheon that would contradict this scaling. Because there's one other thing they didn't mention besides sort of creating the stars. According to Odin, Ymir's body created everything. It was his flesh that made everything after he stabbed him.
Yep.
So very convenient that Death Battle leaves out the lore that would
Well, it's not
contradict
even.
his position. Which
Well,
nothing
it's not
games,
even
by the
just
way.
that.
What?
Well, it's not even just that. That they also didn't acknowledge the sacred treasures or
You
the
guys,
lost treasures that
Well,
came from
you
the other
guys,
to be
land.
fair, we don't have to mention the idea of. Well, I guess we can mention the idea of crossing in the other pantheons because the idea of the creation stories contradict each other directly.
across all
If
the
you don't believe they're on
pantheon.
like one same
Wait,
planet,
they did. Bro, I'm pretty sure Egypt has their own story for the stars in the universe too, probably,
They do.
bro.
every
They do.
civilization in
And
human
I
history
know
has a story for it.
Japanese mythology has that shit too, because it was made in a fucking bowl of soup, basically.
So is the Aztecs. So do the
All right.
Hindus. So do a bunch of others.
So I think
And
we've
even if
clearly.
you want to touch upon if you want to touch upon like the Chinese is the most blatant example.
Daddy Zeus.
I think we've clearly gone over this, but like my general point is that none of this would matter for Kratos anyway. Like we're not talking about Zeus, we're not talking about Kronos, and we're not talking about the primordials and their scaling. We're talking about Kratos, the guy 4 generations down and like thousands of years removed from this. He doesn't fight any of the primordials, even if you argue you think he scales to them. That's like not even something they're directly doing. Like that's happening as a byproduct of their fight.
What about What about
Oh,
Zeus
and by the way, before anyone's just like, oh well, he should scale regardless because he beat Zeus and Zeus beat Kronos, as we said before. He most likely won only due to the fucking Sisters of Fate.
Also,
Yeah, and
correct me
it's
if I'm wrong. Zeus doesn't actually beat Kronos in a 1v1 fight, even in the original mythology. He slits his stomach open And the siblings with Zeus, I believe,
Yes.
beat Kronos. I could be wrong about that.
In fact, one of the ways that he actually starts the Great War is that he gives a potion or an elixir to Kronos via Rhea to get him to throw up the rest of his siblings, and then they have the Great War. So Zeus does not straight up show up to the Kronos of the Titans and is like, Kronos, your son has come, and then like kicks his ass and walks away all badass. Like that doesn't happen.
Okay, so what about Zeus beating the Titans and the Yggdrasil feat? We'll talk about the Yggdrasil more in detail when they get to it. But regarding Zeus versus the Titans, in the canon of God of War, Zeus beats Kronos, I believe, or Kronos gets defeated. Actually, does Kronos even lose before they all get to
So the way he beats them is with the Blade of Olympus, but the
Yeah.
Blade of Olympus
He beat
is
five of them.
Tartarus.
the Blade of Olympus is basically a Deus Ex Machina. So you see the gods fighting for a really long time, making like Tartarus on the bottom of the other world. They're just throwing it out, and then Zeus just shows up in the middle of the battlefield with this random ass blade and is like, "I sentence you to the bowels of Tartarus," and just shoots a giant energy blast and it BFRs them, and then that's the end of the war.
Because I don't believe
Like
the Titans do end up losing to some extent, but I think we only ever see Atlas lose, like directly. We don't see any of the other Titans lose, so we skip
Atlas
that
is the only one that directly loses, and that's because he's cheated by the fates, and then he has his soul ripped out.
Who proved a
That's also
serious
because he was trying to help Kronos from being
Until Kronos
attacked
drew
by Hades. So
perhaps his ultimate weapon, the Blade of Olympus.
It can make tornadoes, lightning, force fields. Oh, and it can stab the hell out of you. It siphons God.
Kratos regained Blade of Olympus and God of War Valhalla and was able to summon it afterwards, and you're described as a memory of your past made manifest. I would also like to clarify as well.
Okay, I'm going to say this right now. If it's a memory made manifest, that does not mean it has the same properties or power as the original.
I was
yeah,
going to say
we're
that, but I
also
was also going to say this wouldn't matter because they're already giving him all the Greek shit anyways.
yeah. I don't know why they would bring that up if they're going to give him this, but that also doesn't make any sense because they didn't let him use any of the weapons. Additionally, this is the big part. We're never told how Zeus makes the Blade of Olympus. We are never told the properties. We're never told if he uses alchemy or any form of sorcery or witchcraft or anything. He just shows up with a random ass fucking blade. It's a giant Deus Ex Machina, and it's never explained where he constructed it, what the properties were, what allows it to do what it is. He just shows up with it. So arguing that some memory manifestation of it would still have the same powers is ludicrous because we don't even know how it was constructed.
Kratos has no idea. Kratos, outside of the powers that he has demonstrated with the blade, would not know anything about the blade or its properties or how it would even work in the first place.
What do you think Bruno would say if he saw this? He'd probably say it's cool as a fan project, but if people asked him if like what they said was accurate, he probably would explain once again that all the pantheons are on the same Earth, so they're not. Atlas is technically going to Greece, but yeah.
He would just link you to his old Twitter answers.
In mythology,
Eventually.
the Olympians won. Go on.
So are we going to do this now or during like the verdict section where we bring up like the Twitter statement of them saying that like he would lose to the Phoenix who could burn solar systems?
We can bring that up later.
Afterwards, but yeah. Alright. Because Rhea convinced most of her sisters and brothers to side with her and her kids to stay neutral. Even then, the Olympians barely won, only after they got help from the Giants and the Great Cyclops. It's because in both the Will You React and Debunk to some Kratos vs. Ozra videos, I'm gonna be honest, like I'm pretty sure the only people most people nowadays kind of acknowledge that Kratos' upper scaling just isn't really valid. Debauchery and God of War,
I'm going to tell you this right now. I'm going to tell you this right now. Most power scalers now would look at this video and they would find how this is completely fucking wrong and biased.
Wait, go, hold on. Don't mind me.
Siphons godly energy and can pull enough to even kill Zeus.
Can pull enough to even kill Zeus. The Blade of Olympus did not kill Zeus. Zeus was still alive after being stabbed. Fuck out of here.
I also want to mention, even if you argue that the Blade of Olympus has its same properties, it's not going to work on fucking Ashra.
Well, Saint Seiya, it's a manga series from Japan that's pretty popular
world,
in most
he
parts of
could
the world.
only do so after annihilating everything.
Also, why would the Blade of Olympus be a win con against Ozra if it couldn't even kill Kratos? And Ozra has
Oh,
like no
hang
chance
on.
of coming back and healing factor.
Yeah, I had to disconnect, reconnect. So I would just argue that the Blade of Olympus, even draining you of all your energy, is not even completely instantaneous. We see Zeus take it directly and get hit by it like 5 or 6 times,
His wife
and it still doesn't kill him entirely and doesn't drain all his powers away. So it takes a while to do that.
He wandered aimlessly for years.
Wait,
Stumbling into
wait,
Norse
stop.
mythology where
Those were panels from the fallen gods.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but that just refuted their entire argument. Like, if he wandered aimlessly to explore other mythologies, okay, then they all take place on one planet. Then we have to talk about the author statements because the authors clarify that information. And it's not just that. I noticed they didn't include any interviews at all. They didn't talk about Cory Barlog either. And Cory Barlog explains how the cosmology is. He's telling you guys how this works.
So
You have to include those statements.
So they said they wouldn't use author statements if it contradicts source material.
No,
Yes.
fuck this. No, fuck this. In the battle prior, they were happy to use Twitter statements for both characters.
But the point is that it does not contradict it. It clarifies the information. You're assuming an entire universe takes place, but you've never assumed that the series has always just been written with people that don't know what they're talking about.
he met Faye, his second wife. Good start, buddy.
Kratos had a new lease on life, but he could not escape.
Can I just say I fucking
He
hate
could
her
do
character
better.
more because
So
her actual
he
actress
became
is
a
so
dad
pretty?
to a new boy.
Easily the
Well, I
prettiest.
Faye
finished
left the
recently with all
tools
modern
he'd need
games.
to keep the boy safe, including the Leviathan axe.
Far from the whirling rage of the Blades of Chaos, the Leviathan axe was deliberate and mighty, said to rival Mjolnir itself.
Thor win.
Okay, I'm actually gonna clarify something here because they don't fucking say this for some reason. The Blades of Chaos are stronger than the Leviathan axe. Like that's stated in the novel.
I don't know why they hype. I don't know why they hype it up like it's like, guys, the Leviathan axe could beat Mjolnir, and it's like, yeah, and it was so useful that it definitely didn't get power creeped by a slightly better weapon in the same game.
You know what? It's a weapon that was. You know what? It's a weapon that was so powerful. Let's not mention this that the dwarves basically creamed themselves when they bore eyes on it for the first time.
Is this axe? It's imbued.
Maybe they just have dog shit weapons.
Actually, keep in mind, not only do the dwarves fucking cream themselves while looking at it, they made both Mjolnir and fucking Freya's axe.
They're like, oh, an infinitely better weapon.
It can be summoned to Kratos.
It's not even that.
And it even
Because
shatters
even
souls.
Sturda says that, wow, this is a pretty cool weapon.
Okay, so regarding this ghost talking about his spirit being torn in two, I don't know if this was literal or not. Which
It would not matter because
yeah,
you fight spiritual beings in God of War anyway.
yeah, I was gonna say it wouldn't matter, but I just thought that one was a little interesting. But Mangler, they are separated by space time. Sure, bro. As soon as someone provides some evidence, we'll be kind of
Kratos may have once been a sword of vengeance. but
Sure,
with this
when you
new weapon,
provide some
he had a
evidence.
new purpose.
Yeah,
He stood as
provide me a
shield
scan that
against
says
the
that.
godly Aesir.
Anywhere.
Too bad he just couldn't help but get in trouble with gods. But now he knew how to control his anger.
Which is even more important than it sounds. Kratos' Spartan rage summons an inner strength with magical properties.
Wait, hang on, I got a question. I got a question.
What?
How the fuck does he kill Ashra when Ashra has a better healing factor than Balder? And the only way they were able to kill Balder was by using the mistletoe weakness?
That's a great question. Unfortunately, we don't have an answer.
Ashra has higher and faster regeneration than Balder.
So here's the problem. Realistically, even if you believe Kratos is stronger and faster, which Death Battle doesn't acknowledge him being faster, but we'll talk about that later. Even if you believe that Kratos is stronger than Asura, Kratos legitimately has no way to put Asura down, especially if we're using the manga as valid for the fight. Kratos' healing or Asura's healing factor is superior to everything in God of War and then some. Even if Kratos could kill him repeatedly, Asura would just keep coming back.
The problem is that once you introduce a healing factor that is medium low, that is to say the ability to regenerate limbs, you have already beaten God of War's greatest healing factors. There is nothing that God of War can do, even in terms of regen negation, that can put you down.
Okay, something else that I found them being very disingenuous about too is that they talk about Kratos' healing factor. It's just like, are we not going to acknowledge that he has to concentrate on healing?
Yeah, he has to concentrate on healing and convert rage into healing, which he's not always angry. His whole story arc in God of War 4, what little he was given anyway, is about him trying to control and conserve his rage as a pacifist. So he is not passively emanating this, he has to summon it, and it takes actual effort, and then he has to convert that into healing.
Okay, so Wonton. We'll talk about the plant being blown up later on. Kratos has shitty soul manipulation. He does magic. Yeah, Kratos has magic. That's fair. What about the statement that says that time moves differently between each realm? Don't worry about it.
That's
That's more like that's we've covered
That's
that in another video, but we'll get there when we get to the Yggdrasil.
We'll get to it when we get there.
Himself. That seems like the opposite of what should happen.
Not all anger is problematic, and Kratos wields plenty of new weapons and relics to channel his rage through.
Like the Dropnir Ring, which can summon a bunch of wind spears. They can absorb all types of energy and blast it back. He even has relics and magic.
And its weak as dog shit.
Space and slow down time.
Naturally.
Okay, I should also clarify that Kratos can only hold so many items on at the same time, so it's kind of weird that they would just give him all shit.
Well, no,
Yeah,
let's
we'll
forget
talk
that.
about that.
Let's forget that. Let's talk about the realms here
Strongest of the Norse
and how.
gods, including the god of thunder Thor, who was powerful enough to fight the fire giant Surtur and the world serpent Jormungandr at the same
Okay, no.
time.
I'm gonna have to correct that right now. He does not fight Surtur. He does not fight Surtur at all. Surtur shows up and slowly makes his way across the battlefield, being not hindered at all by the forces of Asgard. And the characters make it very clear we have a limited period of time before Ragnarok gets here, and then we need to kill Odin and get out. It is basically premised as a suicide mission. Also, a weaker version of Surtur just flicks Kratos across the room in Helheim with like a flick of his wrist. He's just like, go away.
Thor one-tapped Kratos at the beginning of the game. He did, but we're not going to talk about that because that would go against the scaling chain. Thor one-shot him, and in their next fight, he was poisoned.
Yeah, everybody one-shots Kratos. Ironically, fucking Atreus almost kills Kratos. Thor kills Kratos. Surtur flicks him like a ragdoll. Everybody kicks Kratos' ass in Ragnarok.
You know who else? You know who else nearly killed Kratos? Atreus.
Freya.
Oh,
No, I mentioned Atreus.
The bear almost killed Kratos.
Dude, you could probably argue Odin would have almost killed Kratos.
No, because this is what I want to bring up, is that they gave him the feat of killing Odin, but it's like, are we not going to acknowledge that he had massive amounts of help, and also that he would have lost that fight one-on-one?
No, the point here is that Thor did not fight Surtur, so you don't get to use scaling to Surtur, and Surtur scales above Kratos, who they acknowledge beat Thor.
He can't even do air combos anymore, bro. Was washed. Also, even Freya killed him in a failed QuickTime event. Kratos is a weakling, and he can't even do anything to Odin without help of two other people at scale with him. Don't worry, Reggie. We'll get to your comments when we get to the Yggdrasil. Don't worry.
Fire giant would be the cause of actual Ragnarok. You can't defeat me, Thor. I know, but he can.
Well, not exactly. Freyr,
okay, so
god,
we're also going to have to acknowledge that he didn't really fight Thor at full strength either, because Thor was poisoned.
No. But let's acknowledge this bit right here. Let's acknowledge this false bit of fucking thing here, because I remember I had a massive sneak up my ass about this. He's not holding Surtur back from stabbing the ground. What he's doing is he's holding the flames back.
Yeah, you can see it. It's already hit the ground. There's literally an impact crater right there. You can see the energy coming into the ground. It's already hit the ground.
So what Death Battle is arguing is that the explosion that follows is what he's holding back. But we're gonna watch this cutscene as they show it, and then we'll talk about it.
Rock for a considerable time all on his own. And
Let's find out if Death Battle lied.
They're actually not even showing it, so we have to actually go find it.
Hang on. Wait, I want to see he's holding back the explosion.
I want to see their exact words.
They're arguing he's holding Ragnarok back.
Yeah. Hang on. No, not exactly. Hang on.
Well, not exactly. Freyr, the rain god, held off Ragnarok for a considerable time all on his own, and the sheer power of Ragnarok shook Yggdrasil
Wait.
down to its
Okay. So this is the part that matters. The detonation of Asgard. So
very roots.
That's the world tree.
Okay, so that's as far as it goes. All right, Mango, you talk.
But we'll get to the world tree in a sec. So what their words were was that Freyr, the rain god, held back the force of Surtur, or Ragnarok, for a considerable length of time. Okay. Now let's see if that was accurate.
Hang on. There we go.
Skip ahead a little bit.
Yeah, it's very emotional for a series that didn't realize it was deep.
Yeah, so it literally went into the ground. It's in the ground. We heard it go in there.
Time to go. Go where exactly?
Oh, so it's moving. Look, it's moving.
Yeah,
No, he's pulling it out of the ground. So what happened is he put it into the ground, it went down to the ground, it did not unleash its explosive force, and then he pulled it back out again. All he's stopping is the heat coming off the sword. Yeah, they absolutely lied about that.
So this is what they'd be referring to. This would be the considerable amount of time, which would be
Oh,
probably like 20 seconds.
5 seconds. Baby. No, because that would only be when he pulled it out of the ground and put it back into the ground.
Wait,
Okay,
hang on. Did
it
you guys
blows
see him
up
stop that
while
explosion there? Look at that. Look at that explosion being stopped right there. Look at him holding that back.
Yeah, look at that. Look at that. It even hit Atreus. So what we can determine is that Freyr didn't stop the explosion at all. He was only preventing the heat from coming off the blade passively. Ragnarok did not activate the blast until they were about to step through the portal, and the blast killed Freyr instantly.
So
he died immediately.
So to be clear, we're going to a few details here.
Well, let's also talk about that because it didn't even annihilate the realm.
Oh no!
Asgard fell to other.
But that's not
Let's him say realms.
But that's not what I'm talking about. So let's clarify here a few things. Number one, the best you can argue for Freyr is that he stops Ragnarok from stabbing the sword into the ground as fast as it normally would. But considering he can still move the sword freely and still stab it to the ground, he is at best slowing him down by an insignificant margin, unless you argue 20 seconds is significant enough to be resistance worthy.
And I would also argue that's not even something you can use because he's still stabbed into the ground and the sword's still emitting the heat. It's just being concentrated into an area. He's not even stopping the force of the blow or the motion of the actual blade, which is what you would need to scale to it.
Number two, what shook the world tree was the explosion of Asgard, which, as we just saw, Freyr was immediately annihilated by, and Kratos only survived because he and Atreus get to the portal when they get knocked by the force of the explosion. I could be wrong about what knocks them through, but basically they go through the fucking portal.
Yes, so this is not actually... So what's consistent about this is that this is not the only time a Pantheon-scale destruction event in God of War can kill Kratos. This is actually the second time. So in Chains of Olympus, when Atlas is destroying the World Pillar and he's punching it out, Persephone confirms that if he destroys the World Pillar and the mortal realm falls into the underworld, everyone will die, including the gods.
Okay.
And her.
So let's go ahead and answer Reggie's questions, because Reggie asked.
Well, before that, let me just add this: the fact of what no God of War power scaler or fan will tell you about that feat is that everyone, Kratos and Freya, pitched this mission as a do or die suicide mission. They didn't intend to come back.
Yes,
yeah, they were expecting to die.
To survive Ragnarok, but all right.
So, by their own words, they don't scale it.
All right, so Reggie's first
Anyway,
statement,
Reggie's
what about the
question.
statement that says that time moves differently between each realm? Mangle, you want to answer that very briefly?
That's not what's stated. So what's stated is that time feels different between the realms by Mimir, and then he gives examples of this. But the reason for this, as clarified by in God of War 4, is that what separates the realms is the Bifrost Light of Alfheim. And the Bifrost Light of Alfheim feels different when it comes to time because of interactions with time. So if you have an object that cuts between every part of your local area that either has a different flow of time or causes you to experience time differently, that is obviously going to cause different time flows for other people. It's not an actual different flow of time. You are just causing what is known as a time zone.
All right.
Because you're changing how people perceive it. That is what we call time dilation.
All right.
It's still a total. It's still one.
Let me put it in a simpler term. Think of it like a river. There are parts of the river that can flow faster and slower depending on how concentrated it is.
Yes, but you're all still in one river. This is a phenomenon that still happens in our universe due to gravity, where people on different planets can experience time in different flows, but they're all still within one space-time continuum, one dimension that operates under the laws of physics.
I wonder, boys, do you think Kratos believes in gravity?
All right, so so the other thing Reggie asked was also there's the interview that says the realms are in the same space but in different dimensions on top of each other. I can actually answer this one. Ragnarok just completely disproves that. The tree has them on different points of the map.
So that's just something, again, the Norse believe that to be true. They believe they're basically different dimensions that exist in the same physical space on the tree. But that's not true.
Well, it gets even worse because they try and show on the map that, like, oh, these two realms are connected. They're all connected to Midgard. You can get to any of the realms from Midgard. It's just that getting to them without using the Bifrost is just super fucking dangerous.
Yes, because you have to cross the Light of Alfheim, which, according to Odin, will drive you insane and will basically completely incinerate you. So it's just safer to use teleportation.
I also would point out as well regarding the world tree supporting all of creation. If that were true,
Greek pantheon.
then why do you have a world pillar in the Greek pantheon? Again, they're
Why?
only
Why is there not an Yggdrasil in the Greek pantheon, as Ratatosker points out?
Again, Goku versus Kratos and Zeus. Goku wins. Again, even if you go with they're only using the cosmology of the Norse when it supports their scaling, and they don't talk about contradictions. I would be very surprised if Death Battle does a Death Battle cast where they talk about what happened. Why would an IRL interview talk about the Norse belief? Because the God of War developers use the actual mythologies of these areas as the basis for their games. So they would talk about the mythology.
Granted, they take liberties, but they use it as a base.
Actually, that's a better.
They make it clear that, like, in the God of War world, the reason you have the creation stories, the reason people believe that they created the universe is just because that's what happens in our world. It's because people believe something to be true. That doesn't make it true. That doesn't mean they understand what actually happened at a certain point. That just means someone told a tale and then spread it around a campfire 50 million times until it became the center of your culture.
Okay, killed Kronos who overthrew the creator of the Greek universe. Okay, so they don't flat out say it in their analysis, but in their feats section, they are implying the idea that these realms are separate universes.
He didn't fight Kronos at full power, and that guy basically overthrew his father by chopping his balls off and also betraying his father with, like, Gaia and a few other titans. Climbed out of the underworld after dying. Yeah, after he climbed out of the underworld when Zeus helped him by dropping a literal ladder, or, like, what was it, a rope with a rock down to it so that he could climb out. And also digging a hole for him ahead of time. Killed most of the Greek pantheon. I guess, but, like, half those feats have context. He doesn't fight Helios in a 1v1. Helios' legs are smashed before he fights him. He never is able to catch up to Hermes at all, and he needs, like, plot-induced stupidity and a catapult to be able to hit him. He literally required an entire army of titans to get to Mount Olympus. I think the only one he beats in a fair fight is, like, just Zeus at the end of the game.
Fair fight is a debatable term if we're using that, Zeus, but all right.
Fair fight is a bit of a debatable term. I guess him Well, no. He also needs the power of hope to fight Ares, at least to make himself large enough to fight Ares. He kills Athena by complete accident, and he didn't want to kill her. So I don't even know if that's fair. So like half, I guess Persephone is like the only one that you could use. Persephone, certain fights with Zeus, and the fight with Hades for the most part is fair game. So like 3 gods out of like the 10.
Is Hercules lifting the universe the same thing? Is that what the Greeks believed at the time? Okay, so to be clear, in actual mythology, Hercules lifted the universe. But because God of War retconned their pantheons to the way they have, that feat would be recontextualized to lifting up whatever the Greek pantheon considers to be the universe in God of War.
This is what we've been saying the entire time, and God of War fans don't fucking listen. This is why we say post and pre-retcon Kratos, because you can scale him 2 different ways depending off of it. Well, maybe you can't depending on the statements.
What do they say with? Hang on, there. Whoa, why are you skipping? There are other feats there that are mentioned. Released hope into the Greek and Norse realms. He didn't release it into Norse realms. Survived being thrown across the planet. Wait, when did that? When did that happen? The entire Greek planet?
Is that not fucking? Didn't fucking Ares throw him across the planet or something?
No, Ares threw a spear out of a city across a desert, and it basically one-shot Kratos, and he died. But Kratos himself never gets thrown across the planet.
What about?
Hang on, I'll be right back.
All right, he'll be right back. Apparently,
there's nothing in the Fallen Gods. There's nothing in the 2010 comic either.
Does anyone know where that would come from?
That doesn't happen anywhere in the comics. That does not happen in the novels. That does not happen in the Fallen God comic. Yeah, no, I don't know where they got the idea that he was survived being thrown across the planet. What on earth are they talking about? Kratos can't even survive a fall off of a cliff. Like,
okay, so defeated Atlas, Hercules, Zeus, Thor, and Odin. All of those feats and people that they've put there need fucking major context.
I think Hercules might be the only one that's like fair game. Thor was poisoned, and the first time he fought Thor literally killed him. Thor killed him, and Thor was laughing at him.
To clarify, Wonton, Death Battle does not fabricate feats; they misinterpret feats. So there has to be a feat somewhere in God of War that looks like him being thrown across a long distance.
He's probably okay. So he was probably thrown somewhere, but I don't think there was ever a point where he was thrown across the entire God of War planet or any of the pantheons.
Hey, let's talk about the final one. Brought Shovel Knight to a standstill. You would only know that's canon if you use Twitter.
Yeah, so you can't include that because Bruno Valquez has a Twitter statement where he confirms directly that Shovel Knight is canon. The only way you would think to consider that is if you knew of this. So, yeah, they know about the Twitter statements. They know about the Twitter statements. That proves it.
To be clear, that shouldn't be used because the Shovel Knight fight contradicts the source material of the games. Because the Shovel Knight fight takes place between God of War 3 and 4, but in the fight, he has all of his God of War 3 weapons.
Yes, and additionally, he does not fight Shovel Knight to a standstill. Shovel Knight wins. He beats his ass, and Kratos admits this.
The argument you could make on the table, again, as I said during the initial reaction to this video, is that Kratos walks away unharmed after the fight, so you could argue that it was a standstill because Kratos is still alive. But Shovel Knight, I don't think, is the kind of guy who mutilates or beats his enemies. He just whacks you with a shovel and maybe pikes you a couple of times.
Yeah, so that would mostly just be the fact that due to weapon choice, he wouldn't be inflicting that much damage, which says more about Kratos than it does about Shovel Knight.
As far as I know, Shovel Knight's cosmology is not higher than like fucking town level in terms of strength, and I'm even being generous here. He might not even scale that high.
It's literally like the size. I think it just takes place on one existing planet, and you jump around to like different towns in an existing country.
Also, yeah, I was actually going to point that out. How do you reconcile them being different universes so why does it matter? It doesn't matter as a feat But it does matter in the sense of like, how can you argue the different universes if Kratos can walk to Shovel Knight's world and?
Well, no. I think he's asking why does it matter if Shovel Knight is mentioned, because they said that they weren't going to use Twitter statements that contradict the source material, and Shovel Knight being used contradicts
the source material.
That they're all different universes.
What they said specifically was that they were not going to use any author statements if they didn't contradict the primary canon. So they think that doesn't contradict the primary canon. It does. It absolutely does. Because he should not have his weapons.
Okay, so they're only applicable as far as they are supported by the primary source. The fight against Shovel Knight is contradicted by the primary source, therefore the fight against Shovel Knight should not be used. Again, this just goes back. Go on.
Notice how this statement is different. Notice how what they said here is completely different versus what they said with the other one. So I'll go look at this, the other statement that they had at the beginning,
I'll
and then compare it.
Kratos boss fight real quickly. So there's Kratos being a Pinoche. Calls him a gardener. Guess he's fighting Kyle.
Athena, is this another test? I love how he always blames Athena for like everything. Athena's the only one that's ever tried to help him.
Also, regarding the Blades of Chaos, that's what he would have. What is that? What he has in God of War 3, right?
Yes. No, he has the Blades of Exile.
Oh, okay, so at least that's valid. Chaos in this one. Hang on, because I believe he's gonna start using. Okay, well there's the Neumann Cestus, which means that he can't have those because this will take place after God of War 3. There's Greek magic, which again he wouldn't be able to use.
What's that? What was that? The Rage of Poseidon?
He's got more abilities here than he does in his actual game. What the hell? I don't remember being able to grab walls out of the room.
Kratos here actually demonstrating proper tactics and abilities, whereas in his own game he's on rushes.
You just want to fast forward to the end of the boss fight?
Yeah,
I'm going to be honest. This is a more entertaining version of his actual fight than like any of the stuff he does in his own games.
Look at that. But Kratos shatters the ground. All right, pretty chill. And now we're just fighting in the air, being real G's about it. Here, let me just times 2 it real quickly, so that way we can get.
How many sections does this boss fight have?
This is the last section. Once they hit the ground, the fight's over. I believe he has the bow and arrow, but I guess he's not using it in this fight. But I'm pretty sure I've seen him use.
He already showed the blades of exile in the Nemean Cadus. This is very clearly like God of War 3 Kratos.
So there's Kratos on his knees. Shovel Knight is clearly victorious. In your hands, Emir Farmer's tool. Oh, go on.
Yeah, I was gonna say, in your hands, Emir Farmer's tool burns with the fury of the Hades. Surely you have the gods' favor.
Oh, I think he says I should call you the Ghost of Shovels, but the guy skipped it too fast. Ghost of Shovels. You as well are familiar with Sparta. Your techniques I have seen. I bid you good fortune in your quest, whatever it may be. My fate lies elsewhere. Take this gift. If properly honed, it could uproot the olive trees of Olympus. You got a shovel.
The lame.
And yeah, every time you hit him, he puts on. So that's why I think they would argue to a standstill. But let's be clear here. Kratos was on his knees at the end of that fight. This is more like during God of War 3. So you would assume it's during the events of God of War 3, which would be fine, except Corey says it's after the events of God of War 3, which is where, or not Corey, I believe is what
and it's also not possible that it could be taking place during God of War 3, because Kratos is continuously like doing his own thing. During what is it? God of War 3, like he's literally climbing Olympus and going up and down and up and down. Like he has no time to be running into some random guy with a knife. Also, Shovel Knight fights is completely different depending on like which console you're on. If you're on a PlayStation 1, he fights Kratos. If you're on an Xbox One, he fights the Battletoads.
Yes.
After 12,
all right, now let's compare these two. The two boxes for what they said. Wait, hang on, go back. Just a little bit. Yes, okay. So what they say here for the Greek one, all official material related to a character is applied to analysis unless found contradictory to primary source material. Certain alternate media and creator statements are only applicable so far as they are supported by the primary source.
So basically the same thing, to be fair. Just a little different.
I'm just saying.
It's not quite the same because they're basically saying we're willing to use author statements here.
After 12,000 years.
Did you wait? Hang on. Actually, no. Hang on. Did you say instead of supported, it's contradicted, or does it say supported?
Unless found contradictory to primary source material. Certain alternate media and creative statements are only applicable as far as they are supported by the primary source.
Okay.
Now read that statement again.
It's the same thing. It is the same thing. So as far as they are supported by the primary source, certain alternate media and creator statements only applicable as far as they are supported by the primary source. So to be clear, Shovel Knight's not supported by the primary source in any capacity because Kratos doesn't even talk about him in Valhalla. You have a better argument for fucking PlayStation All-Stars than you do for fucking Shovel Knight.
So if you no damage beat Kratos, that is the fight to a standstill. Got it. Yeah, that's right, guys. If you kick Kratos' ass so much that he effectively acknowledges that you have the valor of the gods, that is fighting him to a standstill. That isn't just a W.
Also,
all you get is a draw.
Apparently, if Kratos is on his knees bowing to you after the fight, after you beat him, it was a draw. That was a total tie.
That was a total tie. Even if he acknowledges you have the power of the gods and gifts you something, which Kratos never does in any of the games. He never gives anyone anything.
Look. You can say Kratos is stronger than Shovel Knight, but to argue that he fought Shovel Knight to a standstill is disingenuous as fuck. My boy Shovel Knight took that shit to fucking task.
Yeah, he fucking lost. It's just a lie. He fucking lost.
By Shovel W so big, Kratos had a kneel. So by Shovel Knight, there's no way he's doing it fair and square. He must be amped by Olympus. Yeah, Kratos literally believes he's being amped by gods instead of just being like, nah, bro, I'll shovel.
Only to rise.
No, he's literally coping.
After 12,000 years. After 12.
I'm gonna keep it a buck. You can be petty as fuck and scale Shovel Knight, and if Shovel Knight only gets to like fucking town level, oh, you could be so fucking petty. You could be so.
You can, and that also says more about Kratos than it does about Shovel Knight if he lost to a guy whose main attack is just punching you with a shovel.
The demigod of wrath, Asura,
alongside 7 other.
Also, I don't believe how strong is Shovel Knight. Gods that Kratos beats already. I'd have to scale Shovel Knight, but as far as I know, I've never heard a uni argument for Shovel Knight. Father
all he needs is Mount Bubble.
Former member of the A Guardian. Likes family, Yasha, Hot Spring QTEs. Actually, for context,
wait, hang on. Maybe I'm having a Mandela effect, but during the fight with Chakravartin, isn't he also draining the power from Chakravartin and taking it as his own?
So,
yes.
Not necessarily, and we didn't get the guidebooks to confirm that, but I will get the guidebooks and stuff to confirm that later on. What I will say is that is what most people accept, because if Chakravartin's the source of mantra, there's no logical reason Asura should be stronger than him, unless we're assuming he's taking the mantra from Chakravartin himself. But we will talk about Chakravartin because I have some words about them going to creator power.
So let's lay that aside for a potential argument, but for potential sake, couldn't we just argue that he could just drain Kratos of his power throughout the entirety of the fight and just continuously get stronger with raging?
Because that, even though Kratos' shit gets cross-scaling, they would absolutely argue that Asura only can drain mantra and not anything else if we use that argument.
But they would also, on the same logic, argue. They directly argue that the energy of God of War's magic system is similar enough to mantra.
Monsters infesting the world.
So they literally think it's just. No, they did. They did.
Energy formed from human prayer. Mantra.
Yeah, you'll see.
By advancing technology with mantra.
The demigod's advanced civilization is supported by the energy produced by the mantra. In its natural state, it resembles vibrations similar to those emitted by sound waves and possesses very little power on its own. However, to resonate it with conductors within the mantra reactor, demigods are able to magnify and create explosive sources of power.
The Guardian.
Wait. Stop. That means mantra is not power. Mantra is just
By
sound.
advancing technology,
Yeah, that by description already, mantra is a completely different energy source with different properties. That is more descriptions given into it than any descriptions given to the magic system in God of War. You cannot equate them now. They are not described to be the same thing.
And Kratos can't absorb sound.
Additionally, mantra isn't just like soul and life energy by that description.
essentially
So
hyper-powerful mystic cyborgs. They could each harness mantra through a different emotional affinity. For August, it was greed. For Yasha, it was melancholy.
I'll give you one chance to guess what Asura's is.
By tapping into his wrath, Asura can take many forms for battle, like the six-armed Vajra, a state powerful enough to subdue the embodiment of the planet's will and the source of the Goma, Vlitra.
But he wasn't angry enough to put Goma Vlitra down for good. At least not yet. Of course, since he's literally powered by wrath, no enemy of Asura's would be stupid enough.
They literally ignored the fact that Azra still has mantra in the epilogue. They didn't ignore that fact. What they basically did for this death battle is they're claiming that Kratos would be able to just kill Azra, even with Azra's resurrection coming back. Again, Kratos has no way to put down Azra if you go with the manga. So I don't understand how they even
To
came
do
to that
something that
conclusion.
would make him even more
Come on,
mad.
man, you can build the game.
Right.
It's funny you should say
No,
this.
no, fuck that. You can
First off, Asura is not some one-dimensional
just go with the game and you have enough evidence these healing factors too good for him to be put down.
anger machine. In myth, the Asuras were
Also, can I like to point out that Death Battle goes out of their way to call these characters not one-dimensional and shit, but like they also provide some of the most one-dimensional analysis for these characters half the time.
powerful and aggressive beings, sure, but not
They did it in
inherently
this-
evil,
this novel-
just like
this one
Asura
too.
himself. He's a warrior,
better, but I'm
but
just
also
pointing that out.
a husband with a daughter, Mithra,
And Mithra has the unique power to supercharge
Azra
mantra
is a
energy.
shooting
which gave
soul and is
Asura's
closely with
prideful
his glory,
commander
watches core
Deus
amps them
an
when he
idea.
with his wrath.
If he could weaponize Mithra, literally wiring her up to a super weapon, the Guardian Generals could maybe finally end Goma Vlitra for good.
Well, obviously Asura wasn't gonna go along with that. So Deus framed Asura for killing the Emperor, murdered his wife, kidnapped Mithra, and then just straight up killed him. What a dick.
But true to his nature, Asura was literally too angry to die. So long as a single part of his body remains and can possess mantra, he can climb back out of Naraka, a sort of limbo underworld between life and death. Thanks to some coaxing from a strange golden spider, he did
So they
with an
they never mention this, but the pillars that are mentioned there in the loading screens confirm they are the endless pillars of Naraka. So if he traveled pillars that are endless in their length, that is effectively traveling an infinite distance. But Death Battle will never mention this because they don't want to, and they hate infinite. So
all new purpose.
But let's be very clear. Well, they would probably just turn it around and basically say, "Oh, well, the underworld is stated to be infinite." Yeah, until the retcon.
well, no, it wouldn't matter anyway. You can't scale him to infinite because he doesn't cross the underworld, and no one in there crosses the underworld either.
You know what they get that from, right? They'll literally just say, "Oh, he blocked Helios' light that could turn that go across him." It's like
It doesn't
if
matter.
putting his hand up after the light hits him.
No one scales to Helios' light, so it doesn't matter. Also, saying the Helios' light can illuminate the entire underworld, generous at best, because the way Helios' light is presented in the story is primarily through the temple in the sky. So you have to argue that can cover the entire underworld at the angle where it's sitting, which is highly unlikely.
I'd like to clarify as well for the record. We will talk about Chalk of Argent when we get to it because they absolutely downplayed Azra's like growth in favor of just giving Kratos the Yggdrasil feat that doesn't even scale properly to him in any capacity.
Really
We'll
pissed off.
get there when
And
we get to
through
it,
his
don't worry,
rage,
guys. Am I right,
Asura's
Jim?
power.
You are right, but we will talk about that because that.
Watch God of War fans say he can absorb the Force from Star Wars. Yeah, I mean, at this point.
Rising enough to throw
So I've got
giants
a
like
question.
ragdolls and shatter
Why
whole moon.
is it that when Death Battle, like, especially for this season, you can tell who's going to win because they glaze one character and they do the most piss poor job for the other?
You right.
I don't remember them having this problem last year. Like, not last year, like last season.
Do we want to play a fight later? See win cons? No. We'll play a
And
fight
destroyed
later.
a
To be
fellow
fair, this-
deity, Wizen.
Who could
That was
dwarf
fucking-
the planet
oh, it
and
was
wreck
rough.
it with just a finger? Look at this!
Asura is so powerful, his soul can't
I'm
be
actually
manipulated by
reading
the
this
Goma
fight
or
in the manga.
deities. He can propel
It looks
himself with
great.
mantra to fly.
Alright, is there anything here worth mentioning? No, it's
Harden his fist to break steel. Fire explosive energy blasts.
And headbutt you so hard you wish you could die even
Oh, you know what I just realized? They didn't give Azura the range advantage half the time either. He kept closing the gap. I'm kind of
faster.
surprised by
The
that.
dude literally stockpiles.
They also failed to mention that the deities can directly absorb
And
souls from
when
their
he goes
powers,
unlimited mode, he can
as we see
rapid-fire
from
those
Wizen.
super attacks without overheating.
Asura's vengeance quest wasn't all shouting and explosions, though.
Yeah, they don't
I
care
mean,
about that.
it was a lot of
They don't
that,
care
but he
about
also
being
tried to
fucking nuanced.
protect people from the gods, including a
Well,
girl
I think
who
one thing
very
that
much
they
reminded
mentioned as
him
well
of
that
his.
so they can kill the Goma, and if I remember correctly, are the Goma soulless beings?
The Goma, from what I understand, just come from Chakra Barton and from Vitra.
Don't forget to mention the Ryu and Akuma fights will make Azura way better fighter than Kratos. There is no,
Oh, no,
to be fair, they give experience to Azura in this fight, to be fair. But they
No,
don't mention it at all.
The worst part is that if you're giving them to Asura, then he just flat out kills Kratos via soul destruction.
His own
Yeah, I'm
daughter.
just gonna say that's weird. They didn't give him the Raging Demon.
Yeah, Asura's
Also,
the kind of
he
guy who
obliterates
wants to be
Wizen's soul, according to what he says in the manga, and I'm assuming in the game, like, my body, my
Great
divine
dad,
soul,
but
it
all
cannot
he knows
be,
how to
as
do
he's
is
getting
punch
obliterated.
anything that upsets his kid, like that one dad that knocks out a ref at a little league game.
And then the gods killed that girl too, along with her whole village, sparking Asura to unleash his berserker aura.
You know how the gods were sacrificing thousands of people to power up? Well, Asura got so freaking angry, he built up enough mantra to match them, even though they've been building up energy for thousands of years. Seriously, guys, you're pissing off the guy who literally gets more powerful the angrier he gets. What did you think was gonna happen?
Yet even in berserker mode, Asura never lost total control.
Berserker Asura adds even more extra arms, and they're big and glowy now. The
Oh,
man
Mitch,
can
that's
Yeah,
so much
powerful
angry
in
mantra, he
Singles.
wiped out the gods'
I'm just gonna have to clarify, like, not only does the manga say this, but the game also says this, that mantra and the divine power of the deities are not the same thing. Because the whole point of why they kidnapped Mithra was to convert mantra as an energy source into divine power. They are not the same thing, because if so, why do they have to turn it into a completely different energy
Levels
source?
so high even he couldn't contain it, scorching him into his wrath form.
Even though it hurts Asura while he's in it, this form is still perfect for absolutely shit-stomping a snobby demigod's face in. It's okay.
Yeah, I realized that they
His
didn't
brother-in-law
put you.
punched the edge out of him.
Yasha
The
saw
final
the
transformation.
The
They
final
didn't put
transformation?
Asura.
What'd you say?
They didn't put his final transformation that he gets during his fight with Chakravartin.
I'm trying to remember what form he gets during that fight. Because he starts as the Destructor, and then he enters the world, but I don't think he gets a new form. I think he just keeps amping himself.
I'll give you a hint. It involves arms.
The source of all
error of the
powers.
deity's senseless sacrifices and teamed up with Asura for a coup against Deus.
Also, was Planet-Size
Awesome.
Wizen the weakest god? I guess no, he's not. No, he's not. Because at least 2 of the 7 deities cannot even fight Azura. So you would argue that Wizen is probably the weakest of the 5 that can actually fight.
It's Wizen.
Yeah, Wizen. Because Deus fight. No, he's probably the 4th strongest deity. To be fair.
When you fight Deus, you fight.
I'm going to see this right now. Yasha would be second to Deus, because he should be stronger than Olga.
Okay, I'm gonna keep a buck right here. The fact that Yasha couldn't beat Deus in a fight is so much bullshit. There's no I hated that fucking scene so much.
That dude literally lasts long enough for you to fight not only Vitra, but I'm pretty sure, doesn't he show up to fight Chakravartin alongside you for a little bit too?
He literally shows up to help you fight Chakravartin in base, and then he's able to fight you at your strongest to a near standstill, and he only dies because he gave up his fucking core to save yours.
What a Chad. After he was also exhausted.
Will Bayonetta sell all PlayStation All Stars?
There
Depends.
Rose
on what's
again,
on PlayStation
just in
All-Stars.
time for Asura to hit his former boss with so much mantra that he burst, then dive into the planet's core to obtain power equal to 1,000 arms. His mantra form, finally, a
That's
power
almost started
capable of
again.
killing Vlitra in a big planet-busting blast.
Deus was defeated, and Gaia was saved. Yet, Asura's wrath hadn't been quelled.
Title drop.
It turns out that spider that guided him was actually Chakravartin, the creator of Mantra and the entire universe.
And everyone's suffering was part of his.
So, to be clear, while we support Universe Chakravarti here on the channel, to be fair to God of War to some extent, there are arguments that Chakravarti only created the planet. They make no fucking sense, but they do exist.
Plan to make Asura
They're dog shit, and they're contradicted directly by the game.
Mithra, because of
By the
Perseus,
context of what he's
tested
referring
Asura
to.
in the
Well,
form of a
it wouldn't really matter because he made Naraka.
massive golden
Yeah.
Buddha statue. Check out the size of it. That thing can
And
literally hold a
let's be very honest here. It's not spoiled by the series, but if we go on by like the basically the Buddha motif, he probably created like the other, was it like 7 or 8 realms that we don't
Yeah,
see.
but no, but Kyle, we don't do that. We don't do that here. We don't use
No. So it's perfectly fine to assume that multiple universes just somehow exist with all these space times and dimensions that we don't have statements for on one random fucking planet where they're all contradicted. But in a game where a guy is holding literal galaxies next to a giant Buddha statue, we're going to assume his cosmology was confined to a single planet.
So I'm actually
When you say
surprised
this,
they didn't use the guidebook statement for this fight, because if I remember correctly, this guidebook either states that he's at the center of the Milky Way or the center of the solar system.
are we sure that's not just apparent-sized galaxies? It would not matter, because in the boss fight, he is throwing literal supernovas and planets at you.
Now, Asura and the statue.
Well, here's the thing, like, why don't they go and talk about, like, the actual final fight, and they use this as the big grandiose feat that's, like,
Well, no,
he literally goes into Chakrabarton's body and fights his true form, which makes the golden one look like a bitch.
no. That's what we're going to talk about, but we're going to get a little further into it, because they'll talk about it.
Enter the Mantra.
The Mantra reactor focuses Ozra's affinity and with full control, bypassing any detrimental effects such as his wrath form to ascend to far
Reactor.
greater power.
Capable of holding 7 trillion souls, Asura instead used it as a vessel for a far greater power.
His own unfiltered rage. At last, Asura could show the world his real colors.
Everyone from the humans to the 7 deities to Chakravartin saw Asura's anger as a weapon, a sword for tyranny, when that was never who he was. His rage was really a shield to protect humanity, and most of all, his daughter.
Oh, they do also confirm directly in the manga that the 7 deities are immortal. Because one of their people that's sent away says, like, unlike the 7 deities, my lifespan is also limited. I can only be useful to humanity for a brief period, maybe 1,000 years, or at most 1,500 years.
They really think that Surtur exploding Asgard will kill Kratos, but Chakravartin's beam will not. So, yeah.
Unbound by his past limits,
They would legitimately
ultimate
tell you with a straight face
form effortlessly
that
punched through asteroids
Kratos could
larger
literally
than
no-sell
nebulas,
that thing.
planet-sized lasers moving 2 quadrillion times faster than light, and obliterated whole stars.
Chakravartin was, understandably,
Annihilated planets and stars, rescued Mitra after 12,500 years of suffering, shredded through an army of Goma while without arms, made August draw a sword for the second time ever, defeated Wyzen, August, Deus, Goma, Vitra, Yasha, Chakravartin, fought Akuma / Oni to a standstill. I like how they don't.
Well, he also fought Ryu. He also fought Ryu and evil Ryu to a standstill.
Yeah.
What is with this like standstill argument? Like, do they just use this to say like that way they like have a fence sitting position? I'm not gonna say he won. I'm not gonna say he lost.
No. So to be clear regarding the Akuma fight, that is a standstill because their fight. I don't know if you've actually seen the fight or if you've ever watched it.
I have not.
So during their fight, they're destroying the moon, destroying the moon, shattering everything, flying across the fucking like planet basically. They end up turning to stone because their fight is so intense, it turns their bodies to stone. And 2,000 years later, the statues start moving again, and the fight picks up where it left off. So that is genuinely a fucking standstill.
Okay, but if that's the case,
Here, I'll
how
show
the
you
fuck
guys.
did they conflate that with the Shovel Knight Kratos thing? No, you don't need to show me. Like, I'll believe you. Like, because I have no reason to think that this would be different.
I'm gonna show. I'll just show a chat too real quickly. I'm not gonna show the whole fight. I'm just gonna show the ending of the fight just to make it clear. All right, so here they are fighting. As you can see, this is what a real standstill looks like.
Which, if they're gonna go this far, I'm surprised that they didn't do fucking Street Fighter only scaling where they get
my
like
apologies.
5.
My apologies. I actually upscaled it. My bad. It's only been 500 years, not 2,000. My apologies. Behold Ningo. What a standstill
Honestly, yeah, they definitely seem to be standing. This is honestly what most people think Kratos would do when he fights most of his matchups. Like Azura's unironically that glazed argument that they give him, where it's just a really angry man that's just too angry to die.
So, you know what? At first, I always found this scene kind of weird, but I wonder if at some point during their clashes, they just stop punching each other to wait for an opening.
Little did you know that standing still
They were constant the entire time.
There you go. That's what an actual standstill looks like. Take notes, God of War fans. Wasn't Vidra as strong as Mantra Azura and Chakravartin was above him? Yeah. No, to be fair, it does take Azura's full strength to destroy Vidra at the time, but Chakravartin scales above every version of Azura until the very end. The choreography of that fight was amazing. Azura also counters the death combo. He does go to DLC fight. The Ryu Akuma DLC went hard. Azura ignores soul destroying move. Azura doesn't ignore the Raging Demon. He flat out counters it.
But then he copies it.
Which people don't really do. Point that out. People don't really counter that.
Dante would clear it. Chakravartin is just like Void Mundus. He's technically weaker. He'd be more comparable to Base Mundus.
Impressed and offered Asura a chance.
I think he means like narratively.
Asura smiled at the offer and extended his arm
right into Chakra's face, as if he was gonna let some god trample over more worlds. Instead, he literally beat the QTEs out of God, obliterating him and his plans in a cosmic explosion.
But with Chakravartin dead, so was the concept of mantra itself. Those who depended on it could not survive, including Asura.
Okay, but by that admission, that is literally giving him conceptual manipulation then, because he can destroy something that governs the system of mantra in their universe.
That's insane.
So for him to...
Oh, actually, I think they've ignored something as well. The fact that Chakravartin found Asura to be so strong, he was willing to give him the divine seat of God and let him be a creator.
Okay, so in the Azura's Wrath game, the whole point of Chakravartin showing up was that he was going to give his seat of power to Azura and then move on to a new universe. Azura was meant to be his successor, and he spends multiple portions of the fight trying to convince him to do this, even when Azura is trying to attack him. Like, you fought him, like, at least 2 times, both directly in like some small arena and in the giant battle across space. And then Chakravartin in the what we're seeing right here, the what is it? The event horizon.
Yes,
inside the event horizon, he tries to convince you again, and then you're like, no, I don't want to be a part of your world.
Oh,
and then he's like, all right, well, I'm just going to erase you from existence.
Yes, but hang on, because they don't mention any of the fucking details of this fight in any capacity. But we're gonna go back a little bit because this part of the fight doesn't really matter. Although technically, Azura does this feat twice.
So well, actually, no. What matters here does. So in the event horizon, when you finish the set of the event horizon section, it collapses, and there's the entire area of Naraka is there. So he basically just made an entire universe in his inside of his little Buddha statue thing. That is already a better feat than the Primordials feat.
I guarantee you.
Are you not going to mention Chakra controlled QT? Go on.
Yeah, what do you bet that if we read the guidebook for Ashra's Wrath, it would say that he took you to like another universe or another realm?
So I'm buying some more guidebooks. I gotta buy JJK ones. I'll check and see if I can get the Ozra's Wrath art book finally. I'll see if I can get a digital version, because they're cheaper, and I'll go through it. But the guidebook, I believe, is online somewhere. I'll have to ask Cyber if he knows where it is.
Chaco's manipulating a little prod in Azura and still agree that he wasn't, but like he does manipulate the systems of like mantra and like life and death. So you can also argue he has like trans duality and a few other things.
So what
Chakravartin has a lot of powers that if you consider how he was able to fight Azura would not only get resistances to these powers, he would also get enough powers to interact with Chakravartin, most of which would kill Kratos.
Here we go. So keep in mind that base form Chakravartin is comparable to or equal to this version of Ozra right now, and proceeds to end up breaking his arms, I believe, right now. I believe this is where they break, or I could be wrong. They might break during the creator form.
And every fight in Ozra is literally just like, if we can't use our fists, how will we solve our problems?
No, yeah, like
he breaks his forms right here.
Yeah, this form is already comparable to, if not equal to, the Destructor version, and this form is stronger than the one in the statue.
Yeah, so I would point out that Azura has such has such quick accelerated development and regeneration that you can just, if you fight him, he will just keep making evolved forms that have more mantra as long as his generator is intact.
Now, this is where it matters a lot, because it's really disingenuous. The Death Battle doesn't even mention this feat, and I'm referring to what Chakravartin does right now. Although this transition was probably one of the best boss transitions I've seen in gaming. Right here, full power Destructor Ozra going fucking ham, doing his thing. One finger completely stops it, and Chakravartin flat out calls him very weak. There is no fucking way you can't talk about the fact that Ozra goes from being so weak, one finger stops his most powerful attack, to beating the shit out of this guy and not trying to upscale his AP even a little.
Besides,
and also tanking all the attacks. So like that wasn't even the first form that he did it with. He did it with multiple forms.
No, we don't need to watch the fucking fight again. Just go to the end.
Yeah, I don't want to watch the fight.
All right.
We don't need to watch
the
this
fight, chat. They don't want to watch the fight. They don't like it. All right, moving on.
Oh, it's fucking boring.
Well, so there's no point in watching the fights because the fights are presented for entertainment value. We're here for the research.
Apocalyptic destruction. But the full scope of their speed, experience, versatility, and power sheds a surprising light.
At first
Ozra has
glance,
duality? I don't know about duality.
In
like a shoe.
So that just means that there's like two opposing systems that exist in their verse. That's just like life and death and like mantra.
Okay, so
That would just be for chocolate.
when it comes to this category, me and Mangler, as of recently, have gotten major bugs up our asses about how people treat similar lightspeed things, because we'll basically touch upon this when they show where they both get to. By all rights, it wouldn't fucking matter if Kratos had the AP advantage. He would never be able to touch Ashra.
Kratos is quick, but he never dodged a universe-crossing laser.
That doesn't mean he couldn't. Remember,
Also, to clarify,
That doesn't mean he can either.
to clarify,
So-
just to be fair as well, we never see the distance of the laser. We are assuming it goes on for the whole universe because we never see it stop at any point. But technically, that is also them assuming, similar to how they did for God of War. So there is some fairness there. I will.
First of all, no one has ever argued a laser coming for Chakravartin is crossing the entire universe. We argued Naraka and him creating the universe.
some gameplay
Yes.
restrictions.
Yeah, we're looking at everything in canon, and Kratos fought and killed Helios, the sun god.
From the moment he's introduced,
Kratos directly defeated Atlas in combat,
No, the fuck he didn't.
who had just recently captured Helios, first supporting the notion that Kratos outspeeds Helios.
He does not outspeed Helios. In the
Is it ever
Well, go
told
ahead,
that
Ed.
Atlas captured Helios?
No, it is never told. You just show up in one of those little temples, and his, I believe his sister, the goddess of, it's not the goddess of night or the goddess of dusk, basically just says, yeah, I think it's like EA. She says that he's already been like abducted. You're never told how it happens. It happens completely off screen.
Oh,
And then he just gets stolen and stuff. And then he just shows up in the credits, and you don't even get to see his face. You just see his feet and Athena, and they just strip you of your weapons, and then they walk away. He literally has like a few seconds of dialogue, and he's not even on panel.
When they say defeated Atlas, if anyone was to go into Chains of Olympus and watch that scene that they call defeat, they would say, bullshit. That's like the most liberal term of defeat ever.
Let's look up Kratos versus Atlas real quickly, just to see what that looks like.
Go ahead.
Also, yes,
Chains of Olympus.
we did react to the fight earlier. We reacted to the fight live. Is it before or after he kills Persephone?
Just put punish this Atlas Titan. Yeah, sure, whatever. Oh wait, no, this is
the wrong one.
Oh no. Okay, so you'll have to go to the Persephone fight because it happens during the Persephone fight. Because you're actually fighting Persephone the whole time. Well, no, not this part. Keep going. Should be near the end, a little bit further.
Oh, here we go.
Oh yeah, she tries to put you to sleep. Yep, and then you just chain his hands with some random chains. Which I don't know where Kratos got those chains.
That's it.
That's the fake, by the way.
That's the fight.
In combat.
This is defeating Atlas in combat with some random Looney Tunes chains that just appeared out of nowhere.
Even fucking hurt him.
He doesn't even hurt him. He just is like, hey man, you want to lift some weights? Here you go. That's all he does. That's the feat.
Directly defeated Atlas in combat. Interesting claim.
Yeah, hang on. You want to see the God of War 2 one? Let's go to that one.
Sure. Why not?
Let's go to that one because, guys, we're all about giving context. We like doing this, and if you thought we didn't have enough, I have the 2's novelization, which we could read for right there. We don't have to go through it, but I got it.
To be clear, everything we're saying, we are showing on-screen evidence for. To be clear.
Where are your gods now?
This is new. I think it's a new game plus, by the way.
No, hang on. Go to. This is just him talking to him after the fact. He doesn't fight him. The fight's over. That was the fight. So, go to Kratos versus Atlas. God of War 2.
Just for Kratos, Atlas, God of War 2.
Here we go.
Here we go. No. You went too far. You went too far.
All right. Oh, okay.
No. You go.
Okay, hang on. Very start. All right, falls into his fucking hand and is struggling for his life.
Yep. And this is the scene where we talked about where Kratos is basically blacking out.
So this is defeating Atlas directly in combat.
I would like to point out this Atlas has been tortured. He's been holding up the world for centuries, thousands of years. He's had no physical rest, and he also had his soul ripped out.
Okay, so regardless of how you feel of whether or not Atlas to offer some credit to Death Battle, I will say even you could argue that Kratos beat him in combat because it was during the fight he chained him, and that would be a win con, but that is not directly defeating somebody.
Yeah, he doesn't really fight him at his full strength, and also that does not matter for Helios' purposes because Helios is captured off screen and we never see his confrontation with Atlas.
Emotional damage because he's stuck there. Chuck Barnes, the embodiment of the wheel of life, aka the karmic cycle of life, death, and rebirth. Yes, he is DTFF. Kratos defeat Atlas in controversial fight.
To be a man.
Listen. If that was an official pro fight, Kratos would have won via point system, not by actually knocking him out.
Powerful. Without Helios, Dark.
seeing the sun plummet through the
Darkness
sky,
would shroud
and the
everything.
world plunge into darkness.
His light was fast enough to illuminate
The bright light of Helios illuminated all of the underworld. Okay, so to be clear, without stating how big the underworld is, this feat means nothing.
the entire underworld.
Yeah, it means
Kratos
nothing. That's a bait feat. So what that's meant for is that's put there in the event that someone brings up Naraka being infinite and Ozra's cosmology being infinite, having higher
Only a
speed
few
feats.
hours at most.
Because then Death Battle would be like, well, we didn't actually bring up the underworld, which also had infinite speed feats.
So,
It's just
kinda
bait.
hard to qu-
It's meant to bait an argument.
If Ozra were to destroy the planet Kratos is on, he could survive in outer space, as shown in his battle with Ares. This event is further substantiated as non-illusionary in God of War 2 and its novelization.
That's false. That's completely false.
It's
Because
completely
God of
wrong.
War shows it to be false as well.
So I will offer some caveats here. I suspect what they are talking about is they are talking about the fact that in God of War 2, and I suspect this is in the novel, Ares BFRs Kratos somewhere else. So they are arguing that that shows it's not an illusionary space, which is fair, but I also don't think it's ever stated there's no oxygen in that space or anything to breathe in there. 'Cause
So
Kratos can drown.
I'm actually the problem that this is not fair because they're bringing up the novelization, which means we need to see the quote they're referring to.
All right, we'll wait for Mangler to get that quote. And also, before someone says, "Can't Dante drown in DMC?" There are sometimes Dante can drown and sometimes he can't. So
Have you played one? I can stay underwater for fucking ever.
No. In all of the underwater sections, you have unlimited breathing source, and it's also stated directly in the official DMC2 guidebook that due to her half demon heritage for Lucia, before it's revealed that she's a full demon, that due to her half demon heritage, she has an unlimited breathing supply. So no, Dante can stay underwater indefinitely. Anyway.
the point I'm getting at is that there's evidence for Dante being able to survive underwater and in space, and there is for Kratos. Is what I'm getting at. Persephone literally mentions there's an edge to the underworld, which means it has a finite space. Not necessarily. Infinity technically can have a starting point. It would just go
Yeah,
on forever in one direction.
Yeah, that doesn't.
The problem we have is
contradicted.
the problem we have as well is when people say like, "Oh, it's infinite." It's like, yeah, but it's not true infinity, is it? Because it's infinity in one direction. It's not.
So you can you can have infinity in one direction and not in the other. Because infinity is just a range of numbers. Infinity has to begin and still has to end because it's still technically a number. It just has to start and end somewhere. It's just the general range of it is endless. The problem is that it's just not infinite. It's just not fucking infinite. It has nothing to do with it being edges. It's that the cosmology got retconned. And also the fact that it exists under the physical Earth. That's also why Helios' statement illuminating the underworld doesn't make any sense, because the Helios' light wouldn't be able to reach the underworld.
Oh, no. Let's take it, because people take it like, oh, he used his actual power. It's like, okay, if we're going to take it as literal as humanly possible, then he probably rode the chariot, which is controlled by the horses.
Mangler, have you found the novel scan yet?
Give me a second.
You're good. One pretty funny realization I made is that Guts' best matchup would be Conan, not Dimitri. I see.
The Barbarian?
Probably.
I've never seen that movie.
But yeah, so they
Why
do
is my
mention
phone
the
breathing
space
so
thing.
much?
That being said, I'm gonna offer a caveat that they don't talk about. Once you get Kratos into space, even if he can survive in space, he's already lost because he has no way to move in space.
I'll directly just point out, like, there is no evidence that he can support in space, because he also can drown underwater. It's specifically confirmed he cannot survive in places without oxygen, so you would not argue that is consistent, because it's consistently supported that he cannot breathe underwater. Even in God of War 4, he's threatening to be drowned in that one temple area when Atreus has to do the puzzle in order to save him.
I remember that. That's why I brought up that he technically can't breathe.
Yeah, he can't survive in space. It doesn't matter what like bullshit you try to give it to. You would just argue even if the area wasn't illusionary. I'm gonna get to the scan in a second. Even if it wasn't illusionary, you would argue it just has properties that keep Kratos alive.
Yeah.
Because Ares specifically wants to torture him.
In the meantime, we'll watch a good fight.
Also, they say it's not illusionary, but that's actually incorrect. The novel directly confirms, or God of War 1's novel directly confirms it's illusion.
Oh, want to pause? I guess the whole fight was going on in the background. I guess I never fucking paused it.
Hang on.
Also, technically,
Find
you
out
could
where
argue
they
that Chuck
send it.
Norton's attacks have existence erasure in this fight. I won't give Death Valley any chance for counter arguments. So, I think I don't know if I'll do it with Mingler or Kyle, or if I'm doing a solo stream and we're like kind of like done with what I'm doing. We might watch some other people making either debunks or debunking debunks. Because I suspect this matchup is going to be somewhat more controversial because Osro fans are going to be like, that's bullshit, here's blank, 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 and God of War fans are going to be like, fuck you, no.
Fuck you, no. Interpretations. Okay,
No, like,
so I have,
this
I
has
have the
always been
statement
our
right.
problem with God of War. Is
Yeah.
like, before you even tell us where you think Kratos scales, first you have to tell us how do you reconcile the cosmology, and then you can start scaling.
So the God of War 2 novel, when he goes through the mirror, I'm going to read the few paragraphs. So it says, Atropus screeched again, grabbed him, carrying him through the mirror. It was Kratos' turn to scream. It felt as if every muscle in his body was strained to the breaking point. Bones cracked and nerves sank with pain, and the brightly lit throne room of the Fates turned to inky night. He took a step in, sank to his hands and knees, fighting the dizziness. His gore rose, but he forced it back, despite the burning bile in his mouth. And then later, I'm just going to skip down a little bit. Kratos looked at the ground and realized he stood on a broad strip of steel. Then his attention was drawn once more to the distant fight. Ares fired a massive fireball that whirled and spun and formed a vortex so powerful it sucked up everything around it. Kratos cried out, but his other self was sucked into the tornado. Ares threw back his head and laughed, and then vanished in the street of ambient light. So what they're arguing is essentially that when he sucks up Kratos into that space, that it's actually an existing physical space and it's not an illusion. That's not really how it works. You can still have an area that still exists as a mental illusion, even if it resides in a different dimension.
Okay, so this is where we can basically say, and use the DMC example. We could say like Nightmare or the creatures from DMC4. They have a similar thing.
Yeah, like they still create illusions. Whether or not you think they're in a separate dimension entirely, like, doesn't negate it being an illusion or having the properties of it.
You can take someone to a new dimension, and the dimension can be real, but the shit into the dimension can be illusionary.
Now, let me go to the God of War novel, or God of War 1 novel, and actually fucking find the statement of him getting pulled into that area.
Alright. Now,
Hang
while
on.
doing that, we're going to push forward a little bit because I think they'll touch on speed. We'll just pause it when they touch on speed.
Quantify, but that's consistent with the shockwaves the
Consistent with the shockwaves. Okay.
primordials caused that spawned
Yeah,
the
okay,
universe.
yeah, no, I got it right here. Okay, so what he says is that he's just like, I am not the man you took that day. Kratos straightened when he spoke. His voice too shook the mountain. 10 years I have waited, tonight you die. Ares' sneer expanded to dark laughter. Athena has made you weak. Kratos dropped into his fighting crouch. Strong enough to kill you. Never the god spread his arms as though welcoming the arrival of his favorite son. Give my regards to your family. Instead of meeting Kratos hand to hand, the god tapped into some dark and eldritch power that washed over Kratos and into him, seized his mind entirely. The temple, the mountain, Athens, and the god himself were all wiped away before Kratos' eyes, replaced by a village in flames. He fell to his knees. He knew this terrible place. He suffered it nightly in his dreams and in the visions that racked his days and filled his every instant of his life. So the problem here is that they're assuming it is entirely and completely like, it's like, well, it's completely an illusion. So they think that the God of War 1 novel and because the God of War 1 novel, when I read this and I pointed this out to people started pointing out that it was an illusion. They're like, it's actually not an illusion. He sends you to a physical space. It could be both of these things. He still sent Kratos somewhere else, but he's sending him to an illusionary space.
I would like
so
to
it's
point
not
out,
a real space.
I would like to point out that the Fury's illusions in their game also seem to appear as real when you're under the effect of the illusion.
And then when you just search them, you realize they're not actually like completely real.
Well, I want to mention something as well. Is the only reason that Kratos beats Ares in the first place is because the sword on the suicide bluffs is there. That's the entire point of them trying to destroy the sword.
Okay, so that doesn't matter for the purposes of what we're talking about. They're trying to argue he'd be able to survive in space because they're thinking that area has stars and space in it. That is an illusionary space. It's meant to attack his mind. It doesn't matter if his body was transported into the space. It doesn't change the fact that that's not a normal space.
Also, to be clear, neither the God of War 2 novel or its novelization, as Mangler just read, actually tell you it's not illusionary. All they do is they teleport somewhere else. But more than likely...
And then Ares laughs. And then Ares laughs and vanishes too, presumably to go to that space.
And then
they don't tell you anything.
The events of God of War 1's novel, which basically implies it's an illusionary dimension. So
yeah. So the God of War's 1's novel is what covers it, not 2's novel. 2's just shows him being teleported away, and they just argue, oh, it's actually not an illusion. Ha! That's not how that works.
Made for which
but
is
both of these things can coincide with each other. You just see it from two different perspectives.
This is a false dichotomy. Battle loves doing this because they don't know how to reconcile two things existing at the same time. They have to be contradictions because if they aren't, then they have to concede their position. So that they are making a fallacy right now.
Reggie, the Vigor Emperor was in a separate higher dimension, but said it was kind of an illusion that went into the underworld, and Ares knocked out that illusion user. Alright, kinda. Also Red Dusk, wow.
Primordial shockwaves are Chakravartin's intergalactic lasers.
Okay, so this is not close in any regard, because people will look at this and be like, oh, the numbers seem awfully close. It's like, they're not close whatsoever. This isn't like I am moving. It's not like if me and Zim were the race and it's just like I'm moving 1.5 times faster than Zim where it's negligible. We're talking about light speed here. This is billions upon billions of times faster than each other.
Yes, so this is where light speed makes things very complicated. So keep in mind that 2.58 quadrillion and 2.45 quadrillion sound similar on paper, but it's actually 2 quadrillion 450 trillion versus 2 quadrillion 580,000 trillion. So
yeah, it's not like comparing something under 100 miles an hour, where like 5 or 10 miles doesn't make that much of a difference, and you can technically push that extra distance.
It's not like
trillions of times the speed of light.
Like it's not like one of those things where it's like, if let's say I could move at 100 kilometers an hour and Mangler could move at 200 kilometers an hour. It's not that type of speed where it's so negligible, where it's like he's faster, but I could still keep up. This is unconsequently, you cannot keep up with this. He should not ever be able to keep up or see Ashura.
Yeah, Ashura would, like, Kratos would be a statue. So by their own calculations, Kratos gets speed blitzed to hell and back. Or in this case, the other world.
Realistically speaking, if someone moves at the speed of light and you're 2 times faster than light, your opponent will never touch you. Because you are double their speed, and the difference between you two is so massive that you're never getting hit.
No, it's not even going to matter. Let's say that one person is light speed and the other person is 1.05 times light speed. You're never touching the 0.5, because that's like an additional lightning speed amp on top of it.
I'm not sure about 0.5, but basically the point is that once you hit light speed, any substantial number of difference means you are never getting touched unless you genuinely are just bad at fighting.
Since it's so close,
so I'm gonna read some of the comments now. So Mangler has all the stuff memorized like a pastor could read Bible verses. I don't actually have these parts memorized. I just pulled out the novels.
If you don't know how to use
and the games don't contradict themselves here. These games are being completely consistent.
A lot longer than Kratos.
And while Kratos
people just refuse to accept that.
To control his rage, Asura pretty much always had that control.
So Asura easily takes experience.
Okay, so Asura has both experience and a massive speed boost to go with it. There is never a scenario where Kratos actually fucking hits him.
But when it comes to
versatility doesn't matter, because I hate when people bring up the versatility argument for matchups. It's like, sure, somebody can have a ton of shit that the other person doesn't, but how much of that shit that you're going to bring up matters?
Also, actually, Red Dust, that's actually a good point you bring up. What about time stopping? Because they'll mention it right now, versatility, but I'll just answer this right now. Unfortunately, based on the speed difference and how Asura fights, Kratos would never really get a chance to ever activate his time stop, because you have to set it up and do a specific motion to activate it. It doesn't just activate randomly.
Even if he does, Ashura can
Utility, he
already
couldn't match
neg
all the
that because
weapons and abilities
Chakavartin can do
Kratos
that.
had.
Sure,
I'll also just say
Kratos' great
that
skill and a monster at
Azura's
martial arts, but his fighting
attacks
style
by
mostly
what we're
relies on
hang
raw.
on. Well, Azura's attacks by what we're shown in the game can already kill things like Vitra, which exist at like the core of the fucking earth, and Gomas that exist inside of like living magma. So his attacks would literally be hotter than like molten lead and molten heat and lava and the core of the earth, which in the novels it is directly confirmed that if Kratos were to touch something if he were to enter a chamber that's made of lava, it would be considered instant death. That if he were to get hit by molten fireballs from the Cerberuses, they are considered deadly to him. So anything in a molten level heat, that is to say about approximately 1800 degrees Celsius, would kill Kratos or would badly wound Kratos.
I would also like to point out as well, even if you believe that would have been retconned or that's or contradictory to the source material, which it isn't,
God of War Ragnarok.
Thor also supports the idea that dipping your hand into lava is a really stupid fucking idea and can end badly for you.
And Atreus dips his hand into lava and it burns him. He's literally
whole lot
screaming
of
from having to do it. So, yeah, even in the Norse pantheon, lava is very dangerous to them. So you could just argue the heat and the power and the friction coming off of Azura's attacks would melt Kratos after a prolonged period of time. Even if Kratos himself could tank the blows, he could not withstand the heat.
So
he gets cooked, literally.
So here they're mentioning the time stop, how it would allow Kratos a safer approach. The speed difference that they give the characters would mean that this would never happen because Azura closes the gap and just keeps punching Kratos till he dies. Kratos has no chance because of the speed difference.
Also, you can make the argument just via virtue of him being able to beat Chakravartin and he stops using the time-stopping magic.
Even his
that
rage gave him
eventually would stop working on Ashura.
Additionally, Kratos or Azura is also a ranged fighter, as we see in the game. He's more than willing to shoot like a million different projectiles at you from a distance, so he can just camp Kratos if he decides not to just use fighting his standard fighting style, and he does do that in character. So there's quite literally nothing you can do. We literally see Azura shoot people from the distance of the planet.
Time, healing injuries, and most importantly,
Okay, so I don't want them to even say that, like, oh, Kratos stopping time is a valuable option. It's like, he can only do that by holding certain objects, and if he doesn't have those objects on him, he gets fucked.
So, hello, Emmanuel. So to be clear, it's not that Death Battle doesn't understand basic scaling. It's that a lot of power scalers don't like to. It's not just Death Battle. It's a lot of power scalers. A lot of power scalers don't like just flat out saying, "Yeah, the speed difference is so high that it doesn't matter how strong you are, you're never going to get hit," and therefore
they like to make it entertaining to think that like, oh, we need to make it like both sides fair. It's like, no, that's not how that works. That's not how science works. Like when we calculate things, certain things are just going to be higher than another. We're supposed to be impartial in this process.
To be clear, Death Battle has had a bad habit of not just acknowledging the speed blitzes being deciding factors, which is really fucking weird.
I find that especially weird because of this Death Battle. Because they literally present Kratos as a guy that just no-sells all of his feats. So they're pretty much arguing that, like, durability-wise, none of the attacks would matter. But apparently he doesn't speed blitz Azura. or get speed blitz. That's wild.
Multiple weapons that could drain a variety of energies, like mantra.
Yeah.
Hang on. Wait.
No, by your own.
Get in on what they say right there. I want you to read that.
God of War Ascension, Hayes and his warriors empowered him. What?
So by their own admission, by the scan that they gave for what mantra is, it's sound.
Hang on. Well, let's read what they have to say. In God of War Ascension, Hades and his warriors empowered themselves with souls represented as green orbs. The Blade of Olympus drained Kratos of his green orbs in God of War 2, supporting the notion that it can absorb mantra, a similar form of spiritual energy.
False equivalency.
Right. Do we want to see what the novel has to say about that? Hang on.
That is such a fucking false equivalency up the arse. That's absurd.
That's people's deciding factors, what they use to twerk all over Virgil's body in a Sephiroth fight. Wait, why didn't they use Azura scaling for Akuma versus Shao Kahn? the Death Battle Stand, they always have to make the fight animations look close until one character gets the upper hand. So this is
They
where
they
I
never they
agree and
never
I kind
did.
of don't
They, they
agree.
they 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 never did for this one. Kratos literally just stood there like his controller was unplugged the entire time, and he no sold everything.
So the most you can argue is that it can drain a divine life force from gods because that's what it's intended for. The problem is that that's not what mantra is. So by the direct statements in both the manga and the game, the seven deities make it clear that when they capture Mitra, the girl on screen right now, the whole point of them kidnapping her was that they needed to take mantra and convert it into a divine energy source. It is not divine magic. That's not what mantra is. They had to convert it into a completely different energy source. It's also not souls either. It's a completely different energy source.
The souls
So the
have
Blade of Olympus would not work on it.
the souls have mantra, but mantra is not technically soul energy, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's not the same energy source, so it would not work on them at all.
Well, even if it was,
all his
there's an
mantra
extra
energy.
component to it. The fact that it's also basically
That's it
sound
for us.
waves means that it doesn't function the same. Therefore, you can't extrapolate it working the same way as it would in his verse. That would just be a false equivalency.
Hang on.
Yep.
Yeah, when Asura loses all his mantra energy, that's
The energy
it for it.
fallacy.
So the Dropnir spears and the Blade of Olympus gave Kratos exactly what he needed.
Dropnir
Versatility.
doesn't absorb energy, it absorbs elemental energy.
So
Despite being Asura's soul being resistant to manipulation, mantra energy has been harnessed and forcibly controlled before, such as by the mantra reactor. That is not a good argument because that assumes that Kratos. Okay, so arguing that it can be harnessed does not mean you have the capability to harness it. That just means it's possible by a certain level of technology.
Fuck this. Why are we even arguing this? He erases Chakravartin.
Well, so what I'm saying is that while it's possible, you have to prove you can actually do that at that level.
I would also like to
You have to
point out.
find the evidence.
I would also like to point out, despite also having to prove that Kratos can do it at that level, they're basically saying that everyone else that his resistance doesn't matter because characters who are vastly weaker than him and don't show the same feats can be affected by it.
I would also like to point out that when they did absorb these souls and the mantra, which they think are the same thing, from what they said was like trillions of people, and they shot it at Azura. Azura fucking tanked it. It did nothing to him. So the sheer potency of like his soul and his mantra is way above anything Kratos has ever shown.
Also,
way above that.
Azura can hurt the soul, so why was that not mentioned against his fight against Kratos? Even if Kratos has resistances to soul destruction, why should that matter? Other people's souls can be destroyed in God of War, so why can't Kratos's?
No, like even better. Let's go to full mile. He erased Chakravartin in their fight. He literally erased him. So by all rights, you should be able to argue that Asura has existence erasure. I've never seen Kratos resist that.
Asura also kills what's his face? Wyzen. Wyzen confirms he destroys his body and his soul completely.
If he could, Asura's resurrections take years or whole centuries, days at best.
No.
But all this is
That's no. That's so fucking false. Because there's one time he dies and he comes back instantaneously.
So they're lying here. they're just directly lying here. That's not true at all. So the first resurrection takes thousands of years. The second one takes days. Every time he resurrects, it comes back in an incrementally shorter length of time.
In the manga, Asura's rage is so immense that he's able to survive without his core and outpace Deus' absorption method, regenerating immediately. Kratos' multiple sources of absorption can drain being stronger than Asura. Whoa! Suggesting that Asura would eventually succumb. Keeping his body parts separate is also a viable counter to that continuity, which Kratos should be capable of. Okay, but would he know how to do it, though? I think that's also something that needs to be mentioned.
He doesn't know what Asura is, and Asura doesn't have even the same energy source. So even if he determined that maybe this is similar to magic, he wouldn't know how his anatomy works.
Okay, here's a question: Are they going to try and say that Kronos is stronger than fucking Asura? Legitimately?
Yeah, that's what they'd be arguing. But hold on. I would actually like to point out something as well here. If in the manga he resurrected himself in mere seconds, which is apparently what this is, why are we saying it takes him centuries to come back?
Kratos could match Asura's crazy strength.
No, even
All
better.
right.
Even better. His core is destroyed, and it basically literally says that he can still come back without his core. So,
Lead to
without the source of controlling the soul, he's still capable of coming back. You've got no argument for soul destruction.
Alright.
Asura, right? Look at what he can do! If this came down to who made the bigger kaboom, he'd kick Kratos' ass in 2 seconds!
But a closer examination of
Do
their feats...
not show that one. They literally just showed Kratos getting fucking one tap.
And his
Also, regarding Kratos' absorption, it's just the spear, the Blade of Olympus, and the other one. So again, he wouldn't be able to
Asura
hit them.
overpowered
I would
Hey,
also
Poquito,
argue that
no.
as far as
Vartan, annihilating that cosmic golden god.
By measuring the
No,
dimensions of
this is
Chakravartin's
what's shit as well, is that they're saying that this golden form
body
is comparable to the black and white one.
So hang on.
Yeah,
let's-
Failing
let's-
us to measure
let's-
the size of this galaxy-eclipsing statue, we can determine its volume. Add in the density of gold, for good measure assuming the form is solid throughout, and its mass far exceeds not just our galaxy, but our entire observable universe.
Destroying that big golden god would need energy on par with obliterating our universe 91,000 times.
Extremely impressive
Okay,
and
like a version of that makes that look insignificantly weak, right?
unfathomable. However,
Yes, but hang on. Let's let them put the numbers alongside each other first.
the same idea applies to Ragnarok shaking the roots of Yggdrasil.
Ragnarok is obviously a bit of a different beast than Kratos, but what really matters is what Freyr did.
Right, Freyr, a god comparable to Kratos, held back Ragnarok's
Who the
power
fuck
for a
is that?
significant time.
Hang on. Let's hear what that's.
Freyr, a god comparable to Kratos, held back Ragnarok's power for a significant
Like,
time.
it's the version of Ragnarok.
Again, to be clear, we already saw that's not what happened. We already saw that is an inaccurate statement.
Kratos should be capable of the same level of power, or even more.
Using an official map
Also, to be clear as well, something they don't seem to be mentioning is that this attack would have killed Kratos. if he
and knowing the
included.
world tree's branches...
this
encompass
attack
all-
also killed Ragnarok. Even
all of
Ragnarok doesn't
existence.
scale to his own attack.
we can measure its size and volume.
I'm gonna take it away is why what Freya says in God of War isn't how God of War scalers try and use it.
Well, no. The transcending space and time statement doesn't matter because that's not what they're talking about. They only use it for flavor. They don't actually ever use it for
Map
scale.
is accurate because it shows
It's
these
a
two
bait
realms
argument.
conjoin, which we see in game.
Even if we assume the tree of the
Throughout the game, Kratos directly interacts with the tree and collects dew from its branches. In Norse myth, the Yggdrasil is generally considered an ash tree. However, God of War Cookbook of the Nine Realms describe it as a yew tree, which is slightly less dense than ash.
realms is
So,
only 1%.
so this argument does not work because this is an unquantifiable amount of power that you're claiming he gets from the dew, and assuming it grants him. Additionally, we also see if you're claiming it holds all of creation up on its boughs, an entire universe, which they never actually talk about, like how big any of the realms are either. So we'd be assuming it's one universe by their logic.
No, hang on.
Wait.
No, from their calculations, they're going from the edge of the map, which is just flavorful, to the other edge. That's not how you do it.
There's also the problem that Ragnarok doesn't even blow up every one of the realms. He doesn't even destroy the tree or damage the tree. The explosion just causes a shockwave that shakes the tree. It doesn't even blow up Asgard.
We'll
It
come back to,
blows
it
up
doesn't
most of
obliterate
Asgard.
Yeah.
No. Like, even by their own math, this is wrong. You don't measure from the edge of the map where the flavorful border is.
I guess they're arguing the border is the tree because it looks
No,
like
you would not argue that. That's so false. Because it's not even part of the tree connected to it.
significant low
But
ball
they're
that
using
Kratos
this
should
map.
easily scale
You're
above.
using from where the bottom
Shaking
realm
such
is to where the top realm
Hang on.
is.
Only
Also,
1%.
Asgard fell into all of the realms. Like, when he
Solid,
destroyed
a significant low
it,
ball
he
that Kratos
destroyed
should easily
most
scale
of the
above.
matter, but he didn't
Shaking such an
obliterate it completely.
incomprehensibly large structure would require enough force to destroy our universe's mass energy 9 million times over.
That's almost 100 times greater than Chakravartin's destruction. And
Okay,
this is
how about we
other
talk
titans
about how
Anything that
the
was
Asgard is
outspent
like over 100
Kronos
times
to
bigger than Kratos.
to lift Helios.
want them to fucking provide the fucking
Different from the other
Kratos do any.
Olympians Kratos defeated.
That's the thing, isn't it? It's easy to think that we never see Kratos do anything that matches Asura, but we do. Helios' speed matches Chakravartin, and Kratos outsped him. Atlas is strong enough to lift.
No, he didn't.
I'd like to clarify, Kratos didn't outspeed him in that instance.
He literally gets hit by the fucking light. Like, what?
All of reality, and Kratos overpowered.
Also, again,
Okay,
Atlas,
you-
we gotta
him.
talk about that.
Okay,
Kronos
okay, so
defeated the
even,
creator.
even the most brain dead of scalers have to see the problem here that they're trying to conflate two different mythologies and trying to take both at the same time.
I'd also like to clarify that even if you believe that the God of War pantheons are in different universes or on the same area, Death Battle never says that. So Death Battle never puts that as their position. They just ignore the issue altogether.
We're also just taking Freya's word for it as completely 100% valid.
Also,
As if there isn't, like, any other evidence.
Also, to be clear, again, Kronos doesn't 1v1 Urizen. He chops off his balls when he's about to fuck Gaia, and then presumably beats him while he's weakened, or just lets him bleed out.
Kratos killed Kronos. Add in the clear numerical comparison of Chakravartin, Ragnarok, and Yggdrasil.
That would only be the calculation that they got for the Buddha form, which is many times weaker than his form inside the event horizon, which is many times weaker than the basic attacks from the true Avatar.
So let's break this down. So this is scaling to the Buddha statue, which is the weakest version of Chakravartin in the final fight. The form in Event Horizon is strong enough to match the Destroyer to a standstill, or I guess not a standstill, technically loses, but it's very comparable to the Destroyer. And the Creator form is so strong, with one finger, he can no-sell Azura's entire attack.
Yeah, so there's literally orders of magnitudes worth of difference between each of those. There's no way 100 times difference would cover all of that. Not at this point.
Again, because keep in mind, knowledge gains stronger. Now, of course, you could argue it's unquantifiable, but again, by that logic, you'd have to argue the Yggdrasil fee is also unquantifiable and not use it, but fair enough, they're using it because they need something to give Kratos. I very much doubt with the speed difference, Azra wouldn't just close the gap eventually, because that's, again, they're just not giving
he would.
difference.
He would. He would.
Clear
Let's
numerical
put it this way.
comparison of
Let's put it
Chakravartin,
this way.
Ragnarok, and Yggdrasil.
They've just said that it's only 100 times difference. It's like, okay.
That's not much. Out of
With
this
the,
point.
with the speed difference and how quickly he is shown
the edge in
to cover
power.
gaps
But
in
he
power,
kept
100 times
Azura's
is
the
not that much
sunrise.
leeway.
Yeah, that would be it.
I love how even in the alternate ending, they can't bother to bloody Kratos. Like they can blow up Azura's arms, but you can't ever see Kratos have like a hole in his chest or get his head blown off or anything like that.
So that's more than likely because they just didn't make the model for this. They probably just ripped the model straight from Ragnarok.
I understand that, but like that's so disappointing. That's so disappointing for entertainment purposes.
Not only, okay, so here's the thing. Usually, I can give them a little bit of leeway if their animation is fun, but when their animation is boring on top of like really bad model rigging, this is just not. I can't cope shit scaling with bad model rigging and a boring fight. Like Kratos does nothing throughout that entire fight, and whatever he does do, he makes Ashura look like a bitch, and Ashura runs through all of his transformations, and there is no back and forth.
He just stands there the entire fight.
I wonder if you can even try to calculate how much stronger you'd have to be for Azura to go from being so weak his finger can stop him to overpowering him as badly as he did. I wonder if that's even calculable in any way.
Yeah, you probably could. All you have to do is measure the strength of somebody's finger, and then measure it up to the strength of somebody's like punch or body.
I wonder if there's a versus battle calc on that or something. If anyone's ever attempted that. I'll cyber if anyone's ever attempted it. He might.
Yeah. Okay. So I just
if he asks what we thought about this is like one of their worst researched fights, and this is also one of their most boring 3D fights.
This was a dog shit 3D fight, and I'm sure people are still gonna like wank it, but this might be one of their worst 3D fights in general.
This is probably one of the worst defenses of Kratos I've ever seen, and it's not even rectified by the fact that they accepted that Azura would have been universal. If anything, it just I guess most of their concessions just made them think that they could get away with more stupid, disingenuous bullshit. Because pretty much all of Kratos'
You know
scaling
what this
is
felt like?
hype.
You know what this felt like? This felt like that they gave in and they said, we'll have Universal Ashura, but we're not fucking taking
We're not
in.
letting Kratos lose. Like honestly, this felt like such a concession. Like
Yeah, so basically, concession accepted. If you were to actually do a law-based Kratos, he'd fucking lose because you know what it is. They can't just say that Ashura is universal and Kratos is like barely mountain level.
Fuck, even if you want to argue Ultra's
oh,
planet level and Kratos' mountain level, like I mean, again, the same thing still applies. At the end of the day, it's not even the fact that they gave him lore scaling, it's that they're misrepresenting a lot of the lore or interpreting it in such a way that is disingenuous. Again, the Atlas statements are perfect examples of it. Now, of course, you could argue again, but you could argue he upscales because of Zeus, but Zeus technically has even reversed those things.
disingenuous at best, flat out lying, and objectively wrong. At worst, and most of the time.
Let me put it to any God of War fans who are still watching here. If you were to try this shit in an actual debate against somebody who knows their shit about the series, you would get dog walked so fucking bad and you would look like a clown.
Also, to keep it just an honest minute, yeah, the animator said he fought hard to keep Azura in character, but like, no,
How is that in character at all? Like,
Do you even know what Ashura's character is? Because for the fight to even have made sense, Kratos should have accidentally hurt Mithra. Not even killed her, just accidentally have hurt her.
he just kind of got like teleported into an area, and he's like, "What am I doing here?" And then,
okay.
Azura's like, "Wait a minute, my daughter, no!" Like, for all intents and purposes, he just attacked some random dude. Just felt the most out you cared forced fight ever.
Hang on. Knows them. They had dishonest line. They did not use the Twitter statements. They had not. All right, let's refresh the page and see what the
No,
comments are saying.
no. You know what's worse?
What's up?
You know what's even worse is that they didn't even put into a box what the Twitter statements were he gave.
This battle is so controversial. They had to give it an alternate ending. That is wild. Actually, can I say something that's not? It's kind of on topic, but kind of not. I like how the alternate ending in this fight is actually an alternate ending where the character wins, but in fucking Bowser versus Eggman, it was just alternate scenarios where Bowser would still win, even though that fight's more 50-50 than this one.
Yeah.
Okay. Hang on. Helios is way faster in the speed of light, and Kratos at least. I don't think it matters about who is faster. Kratos has proved time and time again he's cunning as well as incredibly strong.
Why are we reading comments from brain dead dipshits who don't know what fucking scaling is if it would bite them on the ass?
Because fucking Red Dust asked me to go through some comments, see what they say. Also said
There's not
like
going
6-9
to be
minutes.
anything here.
We're checking to see what some people are saying. Kratos spot Shovel Knight
Some of these are actually funny.
Bro, is anyone gonna support Shovel Knight here? No.
Yeah, these people are illiterate. They did not. They said it's like, oh, he stopped him. Like, no,
No,
he didn't.
no. You know what the problem is that we're reading comments from people who have never gone through the entirety of the source material of God of War.
Hang on. There's an actual base comment here. The reason why we have several categories to begin with is that someone can be defeated by a less powerful person. Kratos didn't beat Atlas because he was as strong as him, but because of agility and versatility. Wow, already a more accurate representation in the Death Battle had.
That's not even correct either, but it's a better interpretation. he didn't even. Well, oh wait. What are we talking about at the time you fought him in God of War 2 or Chains of Olympus?
Chains of Olympus.
Oh, okay. Then technically, yeah. It was really just having the Blades of Chaos that allowed him to win, quote unquote.
Yeah. It looks like at the end people are just it looks like in the end most of the time people are just happy that they got a a freaking like an alternate ending.
You guys still talking about this? I didn't know you cared so much about DB. Personally, I stopped caring about Bardock and Omni-Man. It's more so like there's just a lot of stuff to talk about in the direct matchup. Like, they make a lot... If they didn't make so many claims, we wouldn't have to spend so much time talking about it.
Again, like, Avia, you keep... Like, I know a lot of people didn't like what happened in Bardock vs. Omni-Man, but I'm going to be telling you this right now. From what people provide me of fucking Invincible, it's sounding more and more like they got that fucking right, because they gave Bardock every concession possible, even fucking, like, non-canon anime shit.
The reason we're ultimately still talking about this one this far into it is just because we just wanted to see where this fight would have gone for Kratos in particular, because we all kind of knew Kratos was going to be scaled incorrectly, and we were right. He was scaled way more powerful than he should have been. Such Doomslayer victims, not gonna lie, especially Kratos. Hello, FPS the commentator. You're new here. I don't scale Doomslayer, but I've heard arguments all over the place for Doomslayer. Look up Gojo Chronic, Ozra versus Kratos. That shit's trash. Nah, we'll probably be calling it here. If we do reactions to stuff later on, that'll be in a different stream. Not today, but a different stream.
Yes. I was expecting them to have dog shit fucking research. I wasn't expecting it to be this fucking bad, this disingenuous, and this blatantly lying.
I don't think the research entirely was bad this time. It was just very disingenuous portrayals of the information. They also left out so much shit for Ozra that I feel like should have been. This is the problem with Death Battle. These matchups should be longer. There's more shit to talk about. There's nuances here. But that's not how Death Battle does things. They do it only to get the views and for surface level analysis, so it is what it is.
The worst part is that they sidestepped talking about the cosmology at all. It's like, you can't make AP statements without talking about the cosmology.
Really? Really? It was just a lot of misrepresentation of feats, a lot of disingenuous takes.
I think all three of us can basically come to the conclusion of, like, concession accepted. They didn't use Twitter statements, because if they did, Kratos would have got fucked super bad.
Yeah, because
now, if they do a Death Battle cast talking about this, I think we should react to that as well.
I did say if they do a Death Battle cast, we'll react to it, but we'll see if they do. I don't think they will. They don't usually do this.
So to top it off, they let him win, but they also did it specifically, even acknowledging things that would basically be contradictions. They refused to use any author statements or any interviews at all. They gave him every single weapon despite it being directly contradictory. They misinterpreted basically every feat that he had in favor of Kratos, or at least neutral to Kratos. And then, like, they also just misconceived the energy system in Azura's Wrath, as well as his resurrections and every single power that he had, to Kratos' favor. So this was clearly weighted against Kratos. I don't want to hear anyone say that this was, like, in favor of Azura. There was no balance or some form of neutrality here.
You could tell just by how they were talking about Kratos in his research section that they were heavily fucking favoring him.
Wonder how they would have done Kratos versus Dante. Oh, I can just tell you flat out how they would have done Kratos versus Dante. They would have given Dante uni scaling, and they would have just said Kratos has 100 times, like, even, like, or like,
yeah,
I guess in this case it'd be like 1,000 times.
They'd argue he's like 1,000 times more powerful, and then they'd say, well, demons can have their souls harnessed by technology, therefore... The same arguments. They make the exact same arguments and just completely gloss over the context behind those arguments.
You could literally just argue that you could literally just change Ozra's name to Dante, and this Death Battle would probably stay the exact same. Actually, I take that back, because they would probably say Dante's a lot slower as well.
Yep. No, you know what they would use? They would still use the fucking raindrop trait.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, no. They'd be like, man, this is one of the greatest speed feats in the verse. Everyone else? Are you kidding me?
It's not even the best thing in that fucking game.
It would be for them.
No, literally 10 years later, he has a better one running down Tim and the Gru.
It's just weird that at the end of the day, this fight sucked, or this Death Battle sucked on every level. It's not even just like the fight was mid, the soundtrack wasn't even that good, the fucking research was bad.
The voice acting wasn't even that good. They got somebody who's kind of like Kratos, but whoever they got for Astra was fucking terrible.
So this actually just saw me in the corner. I remember one little Virgil and Virgil versus Sephiroth. Oh, based. Yeah, this death battle was honestly just fucking trash. It's really a shame because you could have had a much better fight. I don't know what happened with Devil Artemis. Maybe the animator, maybe the behind the scenes did tell him to change it up. Maybe he doesn't like doing close course choreography fights. I don't know, but yeah, this uh this ain't no Bowser versus Eggman. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. This
I
ain't no
never watched
King.
that one.
I recommend you do. Even if you don't scale it, it is probably the best death battle they've probably ever made. It'll probably be
It's
like
it's fucking it's beautiful to watch.
yes. Even just go and just watch the fight if you want. It was good. That was a 6 minute fight. Fuck! No wonder there was so much padding in it.
It felt really short.
But
No,
yeah,
because realistically, if you're to tackle this fight to its fullest extent, you're probably not getting out of here without scratching like the 1.5 to 2 hour mark.
what I will say is not anytime soon. But I do plan on doing Ozra How Powerful when I get the guidebooks because it's just one game. It's not that hard to go through. At that point, we might revisit it when we have all the information and everything, and maybe not do like a versus video, but just like a conversation video with all the evidence stacked against each other for a more accurate one. But that won't be for a while. That's not going to be anytime soon. I have to take care of other projects first. Yeah. All right. So, do you boys have anything else you want to say, or you think we're good calling it here? Nice 3 hour mark.
We're good
Uh,
for me.
fucking. I guess for the next one, do you boys want to go through it? Because I know nothing about Spawn, and um, if it's not the Nicolas Cage Ghost Rider, I know nothing about Ghost Rider.
I don't want to go for. I'm done.
We probably won't go through it. I might react to it just because I've been reacting to every death battle this season. Might as well keep the trend going. But there's not going to be an in-depth on that one. Although, if you guys have information on that matchup, feel free to share it during the live stream if you guys end up watching that one.
I'm
And
actually kind of surprised. I'm actually kind of surprised that they're using Spawn against Ghost Rider. Like, not that it's not a popular fight, but I always heard that they were saving Spawn for the Demi Fiend.
Demi Fiend probably wouldn't have got the numbers it needed to. That's probably why they went with Ghost Rider. But yeah. All right then. Thank you guys for watching this live stream. Thank you guys for coming out. Thank you guys for your time as always. Have yourselves a nice day. And yeah, this will be the end of the video. So I'll see you guys on the next streamer video. Take care, everybody.